Tonight, we step into the warm, damp sorting room of a 1940s Queens laundry marker, where steam beads on the windows and your shift begins beside a wooden counter worn smooth by sleeves and cuffs. Settle in and let the rhythm of the work come slowly. We are in the right room now, with the carts rolling softly, the clock ticking above the office door, and the first bundles arriving under brown paper and string. The 1940s Queen's laundry marker stands at a narrow table before the washing begins, because every shirt, towel, apron, sheet, and handkerchief must return to the right person. You can feel the weight of that simple promise in your hands. The cloth is cold from the morning air, then damp from yesterday's wear, and sometimes faintly sharp with soap, sweat, tobacco, hair tonic, or kitchen grease. We don't hurry past these details, because this was where the whole laundry found its memory. Your pencil is not an ordinary pencil, and your ink is not meant to be pretty. It is meant to survive boiling water, strong soap, rubbing, mangling, drying heat, and the impatient hands of customers who want their collars back by Friday. The marker's work is quiet, but it sits under pressure because one wrong number can send a man's good shirt to Astoria, or a maid's apron into a hotel bundle bound for Long Island City. In Queens in the 1940s, the laundries were often tucked into streets that already smelled of work. You might pass garages, bakeries, coal yards, rail sidings, small factories, and apartment houses with laundry bags left near back doors. The borough was not one thing, and neither was the laundry trade. Some shops served families, some served restaurants, some handled boarding houses, barbers, hospitals, uniforms, curtains, diapers, or endless stacks of flat white linen. When you arrive before the first full light, the building is already awake in small ways. Pipes knock behind the walls, a motor turns somewhere deeper inside. The air has that wet cotton warmth that clings to your throat, and the floor feels gritty in patches where soap powder has fallen and dried. We stand beside the marker's table, not in the grand machinery room, but at the careful beginning of everything. The counter holds claim slips, account books, string, tags, pins, indelible ink, hand stamps, and little trays with numbers sorted into practical order. Your fingers learn where each thing belongs. A bundle comes in, and you untie it without fuss, keeping the ticket where your eye can find it. You count each piece, smooth each corner, look for a place where a mark can be hidden, read again, and mark again. It sounds simple, and in one way it is, but the roughness is in the repetition. Your shoulders stay lifted over the table for hours. Your eyes search cuffs, waistbands, hems, collars, and pocket seams under electric light that never feels quite like daylight. The cloth keeps coming, it has to keep coming, because the washers are waiting, and behind them the extractors, the dryers, the pressers, the folders, and the delivery men. The first bundles of the morning often come from households, with mixed pieces that tell small stories without asking permission. A child's undershirt, a father's work socks, a mother's house dress, pillowcases with a faint lavender smell, and kitchen towels rough with starch and flour might all sit together in one bag. You don't pry, but you notice. A laundry marker notices almost everything, because noticing is how the work is done. You learn which fabrics take the mark clearly. White cotton accepts the ink like a quiet agreement. Heavy denim resists a little. Silk needs caution. Wool must be handled gently. Some collars have already been marked many times, and the old numbers blur into shadows, like addresses fading on envelopes kept too long in a drawer. We look close, but softly, because the cloth has already had a life before reaching us. By now, the morning has settled into its own pace, and the 1940s Queen's laundry marker begins to move from arrival into real sorting, where every small decision must be made before the wash takes the evidence away. You begin with the ticket, because the ticket is the anchor in a room that wants to become confusion. The customer's name may be typed, penciled, or written in a looping hand that looks confident until steam softens the paper. You read it twice, then you count the pieces aloud under your breath, not loudly enough for anyone else to answer. 6 shirts, 3 collars, 2 sheets, 4 towels, 1 tablecloth, and the small things folded inside, all waiting for a mark that will outlast the water. The rough part is that nothing stays still for long. A clerk brings another bundle while you are still working through the first, and a driver sets down a canvas bag with a soft thump against the table leg. Somewhere beyond the partition, a washer door closes with a low metal sound. The smell of damp cotton rises when you open the bag, and it mingles with bluing, soap powder, hot metal, old starch, and the faint sourness that all laundries have before the day's heat fully takes over. In a 1940s Queen's laundry, marking is partly memory and partly discipline. You can't simply trust the paper slip because paper tears, string breaks, baskets are shifted, and wet clothes lose all the signs that made them easy to know. So your hand makes a second record on the garment itself. Maybe it is a tiny inked number near the hem. Maybe it is a stamped code inside the waistband. Maybe it is a tape mark sewn or heat set where the customer will barely notice it. You learn to place the mark where it will be seen by workers and ignored by the wearer. Inside the back of a collar, along a shirt tail, under the corner of a sheet, or in the seam of a pillowcase, your little code sits like a hidden address. You press the fabric flat with the side of your palm, and for a moment you feel every ridge in the weave. Fine broadcloth is cool and smooth. Work shirts are thicker, with worn elbows and a smell of machine oil. We can stay with that one motion for a while, because it explains the job better than a grand description. Left hand smooths the cloth. Right hand finds the mark. Eyes check the ticket. Fingers move the garment into the correct pile. The body repeats the sequence until it almost becomes breathing. And by mid-morning, your hands know where to go even when your thoughts have drifted to supper, rent, weather, or the sound of the elevated train. The laundry marker's table is a place where other people's days pass through your fingers. A restaurant napkin might smell faintly of coffee and gravy. A butcher's apron carries a heaviness in the fabric that even washing will have to work at. A hotel towel is thick, white, and impersonal, while a family towel is thinner, softer, and often patched at one edge. You don't judge these things. You only make sure each one can find its way home. And as the morning wears on, the flow from the front counter joins the flow from the delivery routes, and the room around the 1940s Queen's laundry marker becomes fuller, warmer, and less forgiving of mistakes. A second clerk brings in commercial accounts, and those bundles have a different feeling from household wash. They arrive larger, tighter, more urgent, often tied with laundry cord that bites into the cloth. You may see a bakery's name on a ticket, or a lunchroom account from Jackson Heights, or a small hotel near a station where travelers leave sheets and towels in constant rotation. These pieces are less personal, but the responsibility is still exact. If a business loses linen, someone will count it. You untie one bundle and release a flat smell of flour, steam, and breakfast coffee. Aprons fall open on the table, long and white with square pockets. The cloth is rougher than a private apron because it has been washed hard many times before. You look for the old mark, and sometimes it is there, pale but readable, a little ghost of ink in the corner. When it matches the ticket, your shoulders soften. When it doesn't, you slow down. That slowing is one of the small skills nobody praises. In a noisy laundry, with carts rolling and foremen watching the clock, you must still know when to pause. A wrong assumption can travel through the building faster than any cart. A misplaced bundle goes into hot water, then into a dryer, then under a press, and by the time the error is noticed, the whole day may have to bend around it. So you breathe, and you check again. The 1940s Queen's laundry marker works in a world of codes. Some laundries used account numbers, some used initials, some used routes, dates, bundle numbers, or combinations that made sense only to the shop. A shirt might carry a tiny set of figures that told the staff not only who owned it, but when it came in and which batch it belonged to. To the customer, it looked like nothing. To you, it was a map. Your tools leave traces on your fingers. Ink darkens the skin near the nails. A stamp handle polishes itself smooth where you grip it. Pins prick now and then, not enough for complaint, but enough to make you notice the quick sting and the little bead of blood you must keep away from clean cloth. The table edge presses into your waist. The floor pulls at your feet. The day is not dramatic, only steadily physical. We follow that steadiness because it is the heart of the job. The laundry marker's labor is not heavy like hauling coal, and not loud like riveting steel. but it is constant, exact, and close to the body. You stand in warm air, looking down. Your neck tightens, your eyes narrow. Your fingers keep moving through cloth that is never quite clean yet, and the promise of cleanliness depends on your mark surviving everything that comes next. By mid-morning, the first sorted loads have already gone toward the washers, and you hear the low churn of machines beginning their part of the day's long cycle. The washing room has its own weather, even if your table sits just outside it. Steam slips through doorways and gathers near the ceiling. Pipes sweat. The windows cloud at the corners. When someone opens a washer, a breath of hot soap rolls across the floor and reaches you with the smell of wet cotton and alkali. You don't have to stand inside the washer room to feel it. The whole building shares its heat. In Queens during the 1940s, many laundries had moved beyond the smallest hand methods. But the work still depended on human eyes and hands at every stage. Machines could wash, wring, shake, and press, but they couldn't know that Mrs. Romano's embroidered pillowcase must not vanish into a hotel lot. They couldn't read a worn name tape softened by years of washing. They couldn't decide that an old mark was too faint and needed renewal before the piece disappeared into a white sea. So the marker acts as the laundry's first reader. You read fabric, writing, habits, stains, and warnings. A red thread tied to a sleeve may mean special handling. A note pinned to a blouse may ask for care with buttons. A faint scorch mark might already be there, and your eye must remember it before anyone later blames the press. The room trains you to see lightly and quickly, without making the seeing feel sharp. Sometimes the bundles include repairs or small embarrassments. A sock with the toe open, a nightshirt missing a button, a tablecloth stained where the gravy boat tipped. In the warm workshop quiet, these are not scandals. They are simply signs that people live in their clothes and linens. You mark them and pass them on, and the work absorbs the ordinary evidence of family meals, illness, weather, factory shifts, church mornings, and sleep. There is a tenderness in handling worn cloth, even when the day is hard. You feel the softened places where elbows rested, the thin stripe where a sheet was tucked under a mattress, the smoothness of a collar polished by years of skin and soap. The laundry marker of 1940s Queens may not have used sentimental words for it. Still, the hands knew. They knew the difference between new cloth and cloth that had become part of a life. The roughness returns when the piles multiply. White shirts to one basket, colored goods to another, flat work to another, delicate items set aside, commercial lots kept separate, problem pieces waiting near the ticket rack. Every pile must remain clear in your mind. Every ticket must follow. The table becomes a small harbor with too many boats, each needing its own mooring before the tide of washing pulls them away. As the noon hour draws closer, the room changes again, and the laundry marker's work turns from first sorting into the more tiring art of keeping track while everyone else is moving faster. Lunch in a laundry is rarely far from the work. You may eat in a back room, on a step, beside a cracked window, or at the end of the table after wiping away lint and ink. The air still smells of soap and hot cloth. Your sandwich paper softens in your hand. Coffee in a tin cup cools slowly because the room is already warm. You rest your feet, but only partly because you are listening for the next call. A 1940s Queen's laundry marker might bring food from home, something wrapped in waxed paper and tucked into a bag near the office. Bread, cheese, hard-boiled eggs, apples, cold meat, or a piece of cake if someone had baked the night before. We don't need to make it grand. The small meal matters because the morning has already taken attention from the eyes and ache from the shoulders. A simple bite feels earned. Around you, the workers talk in low, practical bursts. Someone asks about a missing ticket. Someone laughs softly about a customer who counts handkerchiefs like silver spoons. A presser says the steam iron is spitting again. The driver wants one bundle ready early. You listen without fully entering every conversation because part of you is still walking through the morning's numbers, checking them in the back of your mind like a quiet ledger. The building itself rests only lightly. Motors keep turning. Water drains through pipes with a hollow rush. A cartwheel squeaks each time it passes a worn patch of floor. Outside, Queens carries on with trucks, streetcars, footsteps, and the ordinary neighborhood sounds softened by brick walls and damp windows. Inside, the laundry holds its own climate, its own clock, and its own belief that cloth must keep moving. After lunch, your hands may feel slower at first. Ink has dried near your fingers. Lint clings to the cuff of your sleeve. Your eyes need a moment to return to small marks and faded letters. The first bundle, after a pause, often seems more tangled than it is, so you take it piece by piece. That is the quiet wisdom of repetitive work. You don't solve the pile, you handle the next piece. The roughness of the job is partly that nobody outside the laundry notices it when it goes well. A customer sees a clean shirt, folded and wrapped. A hotel receives its linen counted and tied. A family gets pillowcases back with the right sheets. If the marker has done the work perfectly, the work becomes invisible. Only errors become visible. And that is a heavy thing to carry through a day of small decisions. By early afternoon, the light through the high windows shifts, and the 1940s Queen's laundry marker begins to deal with the garments that resisted the morning's easy rhythm. Problem pieces gather quietly at the side of the table. They don't announce themselves, they wait. A shirt with no ticket, a towel with 2 old marks, a child's garment tucked into the wrong bundle, a blouse whose label has faded so badly that every letter looks like it belongs to another name. These are the pieces that ask for patience, when patience has already been spent on hundreds of easier things. You pick up the first one and turn it over in your hands. The cotton is damp at the seams, not from washing, but from the air in the room, and the weight of other cloth around it. You check the collar, hem, cuffs, and pocket. You look for a thread color, a laundry stamp, a repair, a monogram, a fold mark, anything that can guide the piece back to its proper bundle. The search is small and slow. In some laundries, the marker kept books that could help. Account numbers, customer names, route lists, and older notations might sit in the office, their pages softened by thumbprints and humidity. You might carry the puzzling item to the clerk, or call over someone who knows a route well. We can imagine the two of you bending over a shirt tail together, reading a smudge like it is a weather sign. Sometimes it is enough. Sometimes it isn't. The laundry marker in 1940s Queens had to be humble before uncertainty. Cloth passes through too many hands to allow perfect control. A customer may forget a piece in the wrong bag. A driver may grab a bundle from a hallway where neighbors have left several together. A child may stuff a handkerchief into a sheet. The marker's job is to restore order, but the world keeps sending in small confusions wrapped in string. When a piece can't be identified, it may wait in a holding place, a shelf or bin for orphans of the wash. That shelf is a quiet burden. No one likes it. It means some customer may call. It means a search later. It means the mark failed, or was never there, or was lost beneath wear and washing. You place the item there carefully, because even uncertainty deserves order. Then you return to the table. Your senses narrow as the afternoon goes on. The room's heat presses against your face. The smell of soap becomes so constant that you stop noticing it until a new bundle brings cold street air or kitchen smoke. Your fingertips feel a little swollen from handling fabric. Your back asks to straighten. You do straighten, slowly. And when you look up, the windows are streaked with moisture, and the clock hands have moved more than you expected. And when the troublesome pieces are set aside, another kind of work begins, because the marked laundry that left your table in the morning now starts coming back changed by water, heat, and machinery. Clean, wet laundry has a different sound when it moves. It slaps softly into carts. It sighs when lifted. It makes the metal sides of baskets ring in a muted way, because the weight is broad and heavy. You hear the workers call out load names, account numbers, route numbers, and special instructions. The 1940s Queen's laundry marker listens for familiar codes, because the mark that was placed in the morning must now prove itself. The cloth returns pale, swollen, and warm. Some pieces are clean enough to look almost anonymous. That is the strange beauty and the trouble of laundry work. Washing removes the traces that made pieces easy to recognize, leaving rows of white shirts, white towels, white sheets, and white napkins that can differ only by size, wear, weave, and the little mark you trusted. You lean closer, and the hidden address must speak. You help sort clean pieces when needed, or you check questionable items before they move to pressing. The ink may have held clearly, or it may have faded into a blur that only practiced eyes can read. A stamp might be tucked under a seam, stiff from drying. A tag might curl, a tape might lift at one corner. Your morning work has entered the laundry's weather, and now you see what survived. There is satisfaction in a good mark. It sits exactly where you meant it to sit, dark enough to read, small enough not to offend, and stubborn enough to survive soap and heat. You may feel no pride in a public way, but your hand knows when it has done well. The shirt goes into the right lot, the towel joins its proper stack. The system holds. For a moment, the whole building seems a little more orderly. But it was rough, because the cost of attention never left you. Even clean laundry demands focus. A shirt can look like every other shirt until the cuff shows a repair, or the collar shows a customer's preferred starch line. A sheet can hide its mark in a corner folded under itself. A stack can be set down in the wrong place by someone rushing. You keep watching because your quiet little code is only useful if someone follows it. We stand beside the carts for a while and feel the change in texture. Before washing, the cloth carried the day. After washing, it carries heat, water, and soap. It is heavier now. Steam rises when a bundle opens. Warm droplets touch your wrist. The smell is cleaner, but stronger, and the whole room seems to breathe through cotton and linen, in and out, load after load. As the afternoon deepens, pressing begins to take over the rhythm of the building, and the laundry marker's careful codes travel into the shine and hiss of finished work. The pressers work with heat that has its own presence. Steam irons sigh, pressing machines close with padded force, shirts are pulled smooth over forms, collars shaped, cuffs flattened, sleeves aligned. You hear the hiss before you see the vapor lift. The air smells of hot starch and damp fabric turning crisp. A presser's hands move quickly but not carelessly, because a crease put in the wrong place can be as noticeable as a stain left behind. The 1940s Queen's Laundry marker may not be the one pressing, yet the marker's work is everywhere at that stage. The right bundle must reach the right presser. The right finish must follow the right ticket. Some customers want heavy starch. Some want light. Some commercial accounts need towels folded a particular way, aprons bundled by the dozen, or napkins counted with a strictness that feels almost ceremonial. You read the paper, then the cloth, then the mark. If you have ever handled clean laundry while tired, you know how pleasant and difficult it can be at once. The warmth is comforting. The smell is mild. The cloth is soft enough to invite slower movement. But the work requires the opposite. You have to stay awake to detail while everything around you offers sameness. A dozen white shirts can become a field of snow if your eyes lose their edge. So you develop habits. You keep the ticket visible. You place finished pieces in the same direction. You call out a number before moving a stack. You touch the mark with your thumb before releasing the garment. These tiny rituals are not dramatic, but they protect the day. We can feel the quiet usefulness of them. The way repeated order makes a hard task bearable. The roughness also came from the body being held in one pattern too long. Laundry work asked for standing, bending, reaching, and leaning over wet or dry cloth for hour after hour. The marker's wrists turned inward, the neck tipped down. The eyes kept returning to small print, small ink, small stains, small differences. At day's end, the tiredness might feel less like one ache and more like a fine dust settled through every joint. Yet there was company in the room. You were rarely alone. A laundry had its own village of clerks, washers, extractors, starchers, pressers, folders, menders, wrappers, drivers, and sometimes the owner watching from a small office with glass panels. People knew each other's pace. They noticed who was behind, who had a difficult account, who needed the cart pulled closer. The work was repetitive, but it was not empty. It was shared. When the pressed pieces begin to cool, the day moves toward checking and wrapping, and the 1940s Queen's Laundry marker returns again to the promise made at the very first table. Finished laundry looks calmer than it feels to the people who made it. Shirts lie folded with cardboard or paper bands. Towels sit in square stacks. Sheets are flat, smooth, and faintly warm inside their folds. The wrapping paper rustles. String slides through fingers. A pencil marks a final count. From the customer's side, it may seem that cleanliness has simply appeared, but we know how many hands have kept each piece moving correctly. You stand near the checking table and compare the ticket with the stack. 6 shirts, 3 collars, 2 sheets, 4 towels, 1 tablecloth, the same words from morning return, but now each item has changed. The stains are lighter or gone. The fabric smells of soap. The pieces are folded into neat shapes that hide most of their individual history. Only the mark, the count, and the ledger make the bundle trustworthy. In a Queen's laundry of the 1940s, wrapping had to be practical. Brown paper, printed laundry bands, string, tags, route slips, and delivery lists turned loose cloth back into accountable property. The finished bundle needed to survive a shelf, a cart, a truck, a hallway, and someone's front step or service entrance. If rain came, the driver might tuck it under canvas. If the route was crowded, bundles had to stack without losing their names. The marker's eye often caught the little problem before it left. A shirt in the wrong pile, a handkerchief missing from the count, an old code that could be mistaken for a new one, a customer's special instruction still pinned to the ticket. These discoveries are not grand rescues, but they matter. They spare a telephone call, an argument at the counter, a disappointed customer, or a worker staying late to search shelves after closing. The day's roughness is not only physical, it is also the knowledge that people's trust comes folded into ordinary cloth. A family may own only so many good shirts. A waiter may need his clean apron for tomorrow's shift. A small hotel may count every towel because replacement costs money. You hold these facts quietly, not as drama, but as the plain weight of work done for people who are not in the room. We can hear the last wrappers pulling string across paper. It makes a small rasping sound. The knot tightens. The finished bundle slides to a shelf with others, each one squared and labeled. Outside, the afternoon may be leaning toward evening, with the borough's streets filling again. But inside the laundry, the clock is still measured by lots completed, accounts checked, and baskets emptied one by one. As the late day comes on, the room grows less crowded in one way and more serious in another, because anything left unresolved now has less time to find its place. The orphan shelf waits with its small accusations. A towel, 2 pillowcases, a man's undershirt, a blouse with a pearl button repaired in a different thread. You return to them when the main flow eases because the laundry marker cannot quite rest, while unidentified pieces remain. The air is cooler near the door now, though the walls still hold the day's heat. Your fingers are tired, but they begin again with the same patient search. You compare marks against books, against memory, against route lists, against other garments in bundles that seemed uncertain earlier. Perhaps a faint blue number on the towel matches an account from Forest Hills. Perhaps the undershirt belongs with a household bag whose count came up short after lunch. Perhaps the blouse's repair is remembered by a clerk who saw it come in with a note. The pieces slowly return to names, and each return feels like a small exhale. A 1940s Queen's laundry marker had to know when to ask and when to keep looking alone. That judgment is part of the craft. Too many questions slow everyone. Too much silence lets mistakes harden. So you carry a garment to the clerk or the washer or the route driver, and you ask in the plain language of the shop, did this come off your truck? Did this mark look like Bergen's account? Did anyone see a note? The answers may come with shrugs, guesses, or sudden certainty. Someone remembers the bundle because it smelled of cigar smoke. Someone remembers the customer's name because the family always sent too many handkerchiefs. Someone recalls that a restaurant changed its account number last month, and the old towels still carry the previous mark. These bits of knowledge belong to the people, not the machines. They are the living part of the system. When a missing item is found, it doesn't make a loud moment. You simply place it with its proper bundle, correct the count, and let the work continue. But inside, something settles. Order has been restored in one corner. The day's fabric has been mended not with needle and thread, but with attention. You feel again why the marker's job mattered. even if it was often treated as a small position at the edge of the trade. The rough part is that tomorrow will bring the same uncertainties again. No solved day stays solved. New bundles will arrive with new stains, new missing slips, new faded marks, new impatient customers, and new opportunities for small errors. Repetition can comfort, but it can also wear a groove in the body. The marker learns to live inside that groove, finding steadiness there because the work has to be done. When the evening routes are nearly ready, the laundry gathers itself into outgoing piles, and we move with the marker toward the doorway where clean bundles leave the warm room for the streets of Queens. The loading area is cooler, with drafts slipping in each time the door opens. The smell changes there. You still catch soap and starch, but also gasoline, damp pavement, rope, cardboard, and the faint outside smell of brick and rain if the weather has turned. Delivery men lift bundles into trucks or wagons, depending on the shop and the route. Shelves empty slowly. The day that came in loose and soiled now leaves squared, tied, and named. A laundry bundle has a particular feel when it is finished. It is firm, but not hard. The paper gives slightly under your hand. The string cuts a shallow line across the wrapping. A label sits where the driver can see it quickly. The marker may not carry every bundle out, but your work rides with each one. Every code inside the paper is a quiet instruction, telling the laundry's memory where each piece belongs. In 1940s Queens, routes stitched together neighborhoods that could feel worlds apart. A driver might leave a commercial laundry and pass row houses, apartment blocks, small storefronts, schoolyards, church steps, vacant lots, new construction, and old houses that still remembered a quieter borough. Clean shirts went back to clerks and machinists. Sheets went back to families. Napkins returned to lunch counters where tomorrow's coffee would spill again. The cycle did not end. It only turned. You can imagine the marker standing near the door for a moment, watching the last truck settle under its load. The evening air touches the face like a rinsed cloth after the heavy warmth inside. Your hands smell of ink even after washing. Lint clings where you missed it. The floor behind you is scattered with bits of string, torn ticket corners, and the pale fluff that cotton leaves behind when many garments have passed over wood. But the day is not finished the instant the bundles leave. There are books to close, tickets to file, tools to clean, and tomorrow's marking supplies to set in order. A careless ending makes a harder morning. So the marker returns to the table, and we return with you back into the warm light where the counter still holds the shape of the day's work. The ink bottle needs its cap. The stamp pad needs covering. Pins go back into their tin. Blotting paper, if used, is set aside where it won't stain anything clean. The account book is checked for notes that must not be forgotten. A bundle held for question is marked clearly. These small acts make the next morning possible. They are not ceremony, but they have the peace of ceremony when done slowly. The table surface feels different at day's end. In the morning it was a place of arrival. Now it is a record of passing. You may see damp rings from cups, ink shadows, lint gathered in corners, and polished streaks where sleeves and sheets slid again and again. When you wipe it down, the rag catches on small nicks in the wood. Your palm follows the grain. The room seems to lower its voice. As the workers leave in ones and twos, the laundry becomes full of leftover sounds. A drain ticks, a pipe knocks once, then goes quiet. Somewhere a belt slows. The office chair scrapes softly. Footsteps move toward the door. We remain with the 1940s Queens laundry marker just a little longer, because the end of a shift often reveals the work more clearly than its busiest hour. You straighten the tickets in their tray. Each slip is plain, but together they tell the story of the day. Names, numbers, counts, corrections, special instructions, and marks checked twice. None of it looks beautiful in the usual way, yet there is a quiet beauty in a system that helped ordinary things return where they belonged. A clean shirt in the right drawer, a towel on the right hook, a tablecloth ready for Sunday. The body, however, remembers the cost. Your feet feel thick inside your shoes. Your shoulders have a dull line of ache. Your eyes keep wanting to focus on small marks even after the table is clear. When you close them briefly, You may still see cuffs, hems, tickets, and rows of figures drifting behind the lids. The work follows you for a while, as repetitive work often does. Not sharply, but like a pattern impressed into cloth. By the time the lamps are lower and the room is nearly still, the marker's day has become a series of ordinary labours, held together by care, and tomorrow waits in the empty baskets. Morning will come again with bundles tied in string and bags slumped at the counter. The first cold cloth will meet the warm room. The ticket will be read. The count will begin. The same table will receive shirts, towels, sheets, aprons, handkerchiefs, and pillowcases from households and businesses scattered across Queens. We can feel the cycle already, resting in the room like heat stored in brick. For a laundry marker, roughness did not always mean a single hard event. It meant standing inside a chain of small demands that never fully paused. It meant being exact when tired, gentle when rushed, patient when others were impatient, and alert when the work became soothing enough to blur. It meant knowing that a tiny mark, almost invisible to the owner, could decide whether a garment returned home or wandered through the laundry like a lost letter. Still, there is comfort in the plainness of the role. You know where to stand, you know the tools by touch, you know the smell of the room before the lights are fully on, you know how a bundle sounds when it lands on the table, and how a clean stack feels when the day has gone well. That knowledge is not grand, but it is deeply human, made from repetition and kept alive by attention. The 1940s Queen's Laundry marker belongs to a working world built from such attention. Not every job was visible from the street. Not every skill had a sign above it. Some labor lived in corners, beside sorting tables, behind counters, near steam, among tickets and cloth, and the low murmur of people trying to finish a day's work correctly. We stand there quietly, and the overlooked room becomes easier to see. And as the last basket is pushed against the wall, the small marks hidden in hundreds of garments continue their journey outward, carrying the marker's careful hand into apartments, kitchens, hotels, lunchrooms, and quiet bedrooms across the borough. Those little marks are not seen when the shirt is buttoned or when the pillowcase is turned toward the wall, but they remain there quietly under seams and hems, doing the work they were asked to do. You can think of them as the laundry's soft handwriting. They are not elegant. They are not meant for display, yet each one carries a promise made in ink, thread, or stamped pressure. And the promise is that this ordinary piece of cloth still has a place to return. When the next morning's first bundles arrive, the 1940s Queen's Laundry marker begins again with the same weather of cotton and paper. The room may be cold at first, especially near the front door, where a draft slips under the threshold and finds your ankles. Then the boilers wake fully, and the old warmth returns, damp and mineral, settling into hair, cuffs, collars, and the crease behind the knees. You hang your coat where it won't catch steam, and you step back to the table. The first customer may be a regular, and regulars bring their own sort of comfort. Their bundles have familiar weight, their tickets use names you already know, their linens carry marks you can usually find without searching long. Still, you check, because familiarity can make the hand lazy, and the marker's trade depends on never letting ease become carelessness. We stand with you as you untie the string and smooth the first shirt open. It is a man's shirt, white once, but now softened toward cream by years of washing. The collar is frayed slightly where the fold rubs the neck. One cuff has been turned and mended. There is a tiny old mark near the tail, half hidden in a place chosen by another marker months or years before. You touch it with your thumb, read it, compare it to the ticket, and renew the mark just enough to carry it through another round. There is a gentleness in that renewal. You are not changing the garment, you are helping it keep its name. The ink goes on dark for a moment, wet and sharp-smelling. Then it settles into the cotton and becomes part of the cloth's private record. The shirt moves to its proper pile. Another comes forward. The morning begins to fill itself with repetitions so steady that they almost seem to happen without speaking. And as those regular bundles give way to less familiar ones, the laundry marker's day in 1940s Queens moves into the harder work of reading strangers' cloth. A new customer brings more uncertainty. The ticket may be clear, but the garments may not yet carry the laundry's mark. Everything must be established from the beginning, and you can feel the extra attention gather in your hands. You count, sort, choose mark positions, and decide how to make the code last without making it obvious. The cloth is unknown. The habits of the owner are unknown. Even the bundle's looseness or tightness tells you something, but not enough. New household bundles often arrive with a faint air of being hurried. Socks tucked inside shirts, napkins mixed with pillowcases, a blouse wrapped around towels, perhaps to keep it from being crushed, though now it must be separated and handled with care. You open each piece slowly. You find the seam. You avoid lace, embroidery, thin places and decorative edges. We notice how the work becomes more delicate the moment the fabric asks for it. A laundry marker in Queens during the 1940s handled the borough's variety one piece at a time. There were immigrant households with linen marked by initials from another place. There were young families sending diapers, blankets, and sheets in large, tired bundles. There were single men with a few shirts and collars wrapped tight. There were restaurants that never seemed to stop producing aprons and napkins. The job did not require gossip, but it did require reading traces with care. Some fabrics seem to hold on to the outside world. A shopkeeper's shirt may smell faintly of dust, paper, and tobacco. A mechanic's coverall has oil ground into the seams, dark and stubborn even before the washer sees it. A schoolchild's blouse may carry chalk, cold air, and a bit of lunchroom sweetness. These smells do not stay forever. The whole point of the laundry is to soften and remove them. But at the marker's table, you meet them first. That first meeting can be rough. The laundry marker works before cleanliness, before steam and soap have done their kind erasing. You handle sweat, rain, kitchen smoke, perfume, damp wool, old starch, and the sour smell of cloth that has waited too long in a bag. You don't recoil. You fold back a sleeve and find the place for the mark. The work asks for nearness, and nearness is part of its burden. Yet the nearness also gives the work its strange intimacy. You learn that a person wears out the right cuff before the left. You notice a child's name sewn carefully inside a coat. You see a careful patch where money was saved, and a monogram on a towel that came from a wedding long ago. None of these things belong to you, and you let them pass through without claiming them. You simply help them continue. By mid-morning, the air has warmed, the first new accounts have been marked, and the 1940s Queen's laundry marker turns toward the commercial bundles that come in heavier, plainer, and more demanding. Commercial laundry has less softness on the surface. It arrives in quantity, and quantity changes the mood of cloth. 1 apron is a garment. 50 aprons are a task. 1 towel is easy to read. 100 towels become a stack that can swallow time if the marks are weak. You pull the cord loose, and the bundle opens like a packed field of white, each piece similar, each still needing its own record. A restaurant account may have a number that must be marked in the same place every time. That consistency saves everyone later. You lay aprons flat, one after another, and find the waist or corner where the code belongs. The fabric is thick near the ties. Some aprons are stiff with dried starch from earlier washings. Others have grey shadows where pockets collect everything from coins to crumbs. You mark, stack, and count, keeping the ticket close. There is rhythm here, but no room for drifting too far. If you mark the first apron correctly, and then let the mind wander, the 15th may carry the wrong account. So you develop a gentle inner beat. Read, smooth, mark, move. Read, smooth, mark, move. The words almost disappear, but the sequence remains. We can feel the quiet discipline of it, like walking steps that must land evenly on worn stairs. The laundry marker's hands become efficient in ways that are hard to explain. Your fingers know how to flick open a folded towel without shaking it wide. Your palm knows how much pressure will flatten a hem without stretching it. Your eyes find corners before your thoughts name them. This is skill, though it may not have been spoken of as skill. It lives in the body, and it grows through days that look nearly the same from outside. The roughness of commercial work is the counting. A ticket may say 40 napkins, but the bundle may contain 39 or 41, or 40 with one torn so badly that it needs to be noted. You count once, then again, because count errors become money errors, and money errors become phone calls. The napkins feel dry and rough, stacked against the side of your hand. Their corners align, then slip, then align again. When a count is short, the marker must make a note before the washing begins. That note protects the laundry, and it may protect the customer too. You write clearly because later, when the day is hot and everyone is tired, a clear note is a kindness. It says what was known at the start. It keeps blame from floating around the room without a place to settle. In a shop full of motion, paper can become a quiet witness. And as the commercial lots are entered, counted, and moved along, another slower task waits at the edge of the marker's table, where special pieces require a softer kind of attention. Not every piece can be treated like a towel. Some garments arrive with labels, trims, fragile buttons, or fabric that tells your hand to slow. A silk blouse feels cool and thin, almost slippery, and the ink must never sit where it can bleed through. A wool skirt may hold the smell of rain and closet cedar. A lace-edged pillowcase asks for a hidden mark, somewhere plain enough to survive, but gentle enough not to spoil what someone has kept carefully. In a 1940s Queen's laundry, not every customer understood what the laundry could safely do. Some expected miracles from soap. Some feared the laundry would be too harsh. Some pinned notes in careful handwriting, asking for no starch, no bleach, mending if possible, or special care with a tablecloth used for holidays. The marker sees these notes before anyone else, and you become the first keeper of the instruction. You might pin a tag to a delicate piece, or set it aside in a marked tray, or add a warning to the ticket. The process is plain, but it carries consequence. If the note is lost, the blouse may go where it shouldn't. If the tag falls away, the special care becomes only a memory. So you secure the instruction as though fastening a small lantern in the fog. It doesn't need to shine far. It only needs to be seen by the next worker. The senses change with special work. The table seems quieter. The heavy slap of towels gives way to softer fabric sounds, the whisper of rayon, the dry brush of wool, the faint tick of a button against wood. You lean closer. You smell perfume trapped in a collar, or moth flakes from a storage drawer, or the sour dampness of rain in a coat lining. The room is still busy, but your circle of attention grows small. This kind of care can be tiring because it interrupts the larger rhythm. After dozens of aprons, your hands are ready for speed, but a fragile blouse asks you to become slow again. You have to change pace without irritation. You have to respect the cloth in front of you, even while other baskets wait. We can feel how the laundry marker's day is not simply repetition, but repetition with constant, tiny adjustments. The human detail sits close here. Some people sent their best linens to the laundry because home washing was difficult in apartment kitchens. Some sent only the heavy things, keeping small wash at home. Some relied on the laundry because work hours left no room for tubs, limes, boiling, wringing, and ironing. The marker's table received these choices silently. It received convenience, necessity, pride, thrift, and fatigue, all folded into cloth. When the special pieces have been marked and separated, the day moves back toward the main flow, and the marker returns to the steady current of ordinary garments that never seems quite finished. Ordinary garments are not truly ordinary when you handle enough of them. Shirts differ in collar shape, fabric weight, button type, repair, smell, and wear. Towels differ in loop, thickness, edge, and the way they have thinned at the middle. Sheets have hems that tell their age. Handkerchiefs carry monograms, initials, or nothing at all. The laundry marker learns these differences not because they are charming, though they can be, but because they help keep order. You may work near a window, but the light is rarely ideal. In winter, it is pale and brief. In summer, it can glare on white cloth until your eyes water. Electric bulbs help, yet they cast shadows under cuffs and inside folded hems. You turn the garment toward the light, then away from it, searching for the old mark or the best place to make a new one. The motion becomes so familiar that the wrist hardly asks permission. A 1940s Queen's laundry marker also worked with the noise of other people's timing. The front counter may ring a bell, the office may call for a rush account, the washer may need a lot identified before it goes in. A driver may ask whether a bundle is marked yet because his route is backed up. You answer without losing your place. though sometimes you slide a finger under the ticket to hold the line where your mind was. This is one of the hidden strains of the job. The work is quiet, but it is interrupted. You are asked to be both steady and responsive. You must keep your own rhythm while fitting into the larger rhythm of the laundry. It is like keeping a candle lit in a room where doors keep opening. The flame survives because your hands build habits around it, cupping attention without making a show of it. There are small comforts. Freshly laundered sample pieces from earlier loads may pass near your table, giving off clean warmth. Someone may open a window just enough to let in cool air without upsetting the steam balance. A co-worker may slide a misplaced ticket back to you with a look that says the mistake was caught in time. These comforts are practical and brief, but they can soften a hard afternoon. The marker's clothing takes on the room. Apron, dress, shirt, or work smock, whatever you wear, it gathers lint and the smell of soap. Your sleeves may be rolled. Your shoes may have damp edges. Ink may find a cuff no matter how careful you are. At home later, someone might know by the smell of your clothes that you spent the day in the laundry, among hot water and cotton and the long patience of sorting. By early afternoon, the carts are fuller, the washroom louder, and the 1940s Queen's Laundry marker begins again to check the marks that return from the wet side of the work. Wet sorting asks the eyes to trust what they made. The garments are darker now, heavy with water, and the marks sometimes hide in folds that cling together. You lift a shirt by the shoulders, and warm water presses through the cloth against your fingers. The fabric has a new weight, almost surprising if you only remember it dry. You turn the hem, find the code, and guide the piece towards its proper next place. Water changes everything about cloth. It darkens old stains, it swells seams, it makes ink look bolder for a moment, then softer as the surface shines. A towel that was fluffy when dry becomes a dense square of heat and weight. Sheets twist into themselves. Napkins cling together. The laundry marker may not do all the lifting, but your hands still meet this changed world when pieces need identification or correction. In Queen's laundries of the 1940s, the machinery could be large, loud, and practical. Extractors spun water out with a force felt through the floor. Washers turned loads in metal drums. Pipes carried hot water and steam. Yet the machines depended on the humble fact that someone had marked the cloth before it entered. Without that, the clean whiteness produced by machinery would become confusion. Clean is not enough if the piece is lost. So you read marks that are damp, blurred, hidden, or folded into seams. You may wipe a corner with your thumb to clear suds. You may hold the cloth near the light, even while it drips back into the cart. You may call a number to another worker, who repeats it and moves the load. The call and response is soft compared with the machines, but it keeps the human order alive. The roughness is in the responsibility being so small and so constant that it can be underestimated. No single mark feels like much. A little ink, a little pressure, a little code, but hundreds of them build the day, and the day leans on them. You know this because when one mark fails, everyone suddenly notices the marker's work. The hidden task becomes visible only at the point where it is broken. We can imagine your hand pausing over a blurred number. It might be a 3. It might be an 8. The old ink has spread through cotton fibers over many washings. You compare it to the ticket, to the bundle, to other pieces in the same account. You don't guess too quickly. Guessing is easy in the warm noise of the room, but a wrong guess will travel. So you wait, look again, and let the mark become clearer. And when the wet work has given up its answers, the day moves towards starch, pressing, and finishing, where the marker's careful reading becomes part of the laundry's final appearance. Starch has a smell that many people remember without knowing why. It is clean, slightly sweet, and dry even in a damp room. In the 1940s, shirts, collars, cuffs, aprons, and table linens might receive different degrees of stiffness, depending on custom, fashion, and use. The marker's ticket carries those preferences forward. Heavy starch for one account, light for another, none for a delicate garment. The code on the cloth and the note on the paper must agree. You watch the pieces move into finishing areas where hands are quick and heat is close. Pressing is skilled work, and it has its own rhythm of pull, smooth, steam, close, lift, and fold. The marker may stand apart, yet you are still involved whenever a bundle's identity is uncertain. A presser lifts a shirt and asks for the account. You step in, find the mark, read it, and the piece returns to the flow. The sounds here are sharper than at the marking table. Metal presses close with a padded thud. Steam releases in a hush. Hangers scrape. Paper bands crackle. A folding board taps the table. Still, under all that, there is the same calm pattern of hands making cloth presentable again. You can hear the building thinking through its tasks, one motion answering another, until the room becomes a kind of working clock. The roughness of the marker's role is that you may be called everywhere and thanked nowhere in particular. That is not bitterness. It is simply the shape of a support job. When a mark is needed, you are needed. When the answer is found, the work continues, and everyone turns back to their own station. You return to your table with a little more ache in your feet and one less uncertainty in the room. There are moments of quiet pride, even if they pass privately. A difficult bundle clears without error. A new account is marked cleanly and entered properly. A piece nearly lost is restored. A customer's note makes it all the way through the building because you secured it well. These are small victories, and they feel best when they settle rather than sparkle. They become part of the day's ordinary peace. By late afternoon, the light has flattened, and the finished laundry gathers in wrapped shapes that make the earlier confusion almost hard to believe. The checking table becomes a place of return. Morning's loose cloth comes back as folded order. Shirts are stacked with collars aligned. Towels are squared. Napkins lie in counts that feel pleasing under the hand. Sheets are folded into broad, clean blocks, still carrying warmth at their centers. You compare each stack to its ticket, and the little marks hidden inside the folds let you trust what you are sending away. A 1940s Queen's Laundry marker might stand beside a checker or wrapper, helping confirm accounts before delivery. The pencil moves down the ticket. The count is spoken quietly. One missing piece stops the whole bundle. You search the nearby stacks, then the shelf, then the cart that came from pressing. The room has less energy now, but the need for accuracy has not softened. In some ways, the end asks more of you than the beginning. Fatigue makes simple things slippery. A 6 can look like a 9 if the paper turns. A shirt can be counted twice when it shifts from one pile to another. A handkerchief can cling inside a sheetfold, hidden until the bundle is nearly wrapped. You slow the hands just enough. You let the eyes rest on the ticket. You touch the stack and count again, because late day errors have a way of waiting until everyone wants to go home. The finished bundles smell different from the incoming ones. They carry soap, starch, paper, warm cotton, and a faint dryness from the press. The unpleasant morning smells have been rinsed away. The cloth has been returned to itself, though not to newness. Worn cuffs are still worn. Thin towels are still thin. A mended tear remains mended. Laundry does not erase life, it refreshes it enough for another day. This is part of the comfort in the process. The marker's work does not pretend that ordinary wear can be avoided. It only helps each piece pass through a cycle of use, soiling, washing, finishing, and return. You see that cycle again and again until it becomes almost gentle. People live. Cloth gathers evidence. The laundry receives it. The wash cleans it. The bundle goes home. And as the delivery shelves fill, the day bends toward the last difficult calls, the last searches, and the last small corrections before closing. A telephone call may come from a customer asking whether a bundle is ready. The office voice answers, and sometimes your name or station is pulled into the question. Is that account marked? Did the missing tablecloth turn up? Was the rush shirt found? You listen because the answer may rest in your memory of a mark, a note, or a piece set aside earlier. The laundry's memory is not only in books, it is spread among workers. You may remember a tablecloth because it was unusually heavy, with a border of woven flowers that felt raised under your fingertips. You may remember a shirt because the owner had sewn the buttons with black thread instead of white. You may remember a towel because its old mark sat in the wrong corner, stubborn and misleading. These memories are not deliberate at first. They gather because the work has passed through the senses. In the 1940s Queen's Laundry, such memory could save time. Before computers, before printed barcodes, before scanning systems that chirped at every station, the shop relied on tickets, marks, ledgers, and practiced attention. Human systems are fallible, but they can also be tenderly observant. A worker might know that a family always sends 7 pillowcases, not 6, because one child keeps an extra. Another might know a hotel changed suppliers, and the new towels are thicker. The marker belongs to this web of knowing. You don't hold every answer, but you hold many small ones. You know the marks. You know which codes blur. You know which customers' linens are often mixed. You know which bundles need careful separation before wash. The roughness is that this knowledge must remain available even when your body wants only to sit down and let the room fade. Evening light at the laundry table can be almost beautiful. It comes through steamed glass softened by lint in the air and lays itself across the wood in a pale band. Dust and cotton fibers drift through it. The ink bottle casts a small shadow. The ticket spike, if there is one, holds the day's papers in a straight, slightly ragged stack. We let the eye rest there for a moment, because the room has earned its quiet details. Then another bundle appears. Not a full morning bundle, but a leftover correction from somewhere inside. 3 shirts tied together. A note clipped to the top. The count doesn't match. You open them with tired patience, read the marks, and see that one shirt belongs elsewhere. It is easy to feel how rough such a small, late task can be, because the mind has already begun reaching toward the end of the shift, but the marker's hand returns to method. Ticket first, old mark second, fabric third. Count fourth. You move the stray shirt to its proper place, correct the note, and retie what remains. Nothing dramatic has happened, and yet the laundry is better for it. The bundle will go out clean and correct. Someone will open it at home or at work, and never know that a quiet correction saved it from becoming a problem. As the last corrections settle, the marker's station begins to clear, though the day's warmth still hangs in the walls and in the cloth waiting for delivery. The cleanup has a plain rhythm. Scraps of string are gathered, damp paper is thrown away, ink is closed, stamps are wiped, pins are counted loosely back into their container, the table is brushed of lint with the side of the hand or a worn rag. You find small things at the end of a shift, a button, a ticket corner, a collar stay, a safety pin bent open, each one evidence of motion now stilled. Your hands, after so much fabric, may feel almost strange when they touch wood, metal, or glass. The ink bottle is cool and smooth, the stamp handle is hard, the chair back near the table has a dry edge under your palm. You become aware of texture because cloth no longer fills every second. This is one of the quiet gifts of ending. The world returns in separate surfaces instead of one continuous stream of laundry. A 1940s Queen's laundry marker may wash up in a small basin, rubbing soap around the nails where ink has gathered. It doesn't all come off. The skin keeps shadows of the day. Blue-black near the cuticles, grey where lint mixed with moisture. The water in the basin clouds slightly. The towel for workers' hands is not as fine as the customer's towels, but it is clean enough and rough enough to wake the fingers. Outside the laundry, the evening may smell of pavement, supper, exhaust and river damp if the wind is right. Inside, the marker smells mostly the shop, because the shop has settled into clothes and hair. When you step out, the cooler air can feel like another kind of washing. Your shoulders lower. Your ears notice the absence of machines. The street sounds are still there, but they spread out, less enclosed than the laundry's steady hum. Still, the work may follow in small ways. You might see a neighbor's shirt on a clothesline and notice the hem automatically. You might count napkins at a diner without meaning to. You might read initials on a handkerchief or examine the corner of a towel. The job trains the eye, and the trained eye does not clock out all at once. It softens gradually as the evening carries you away from the table, and when the next day begins, the same trained eye returns. Because the laundry marker's craft in 1940s Queens lives in beginning again without fanfare. There is something almost monastic in the return to the table, though the laundry itself is too practical and noisy to feel solemn. You place the tools where they belong. You prepare the ticket tray. You test the stamp or pen on scrap cloth if needed. making sure the mark is dark enough and not too wet. You look at the first bundle and let the mind settle. The day's work has a doorway, and this is it. The first hour often decides the smoothness of everything after it. If the incoming lots are marked clearly, separated well, and noted correctly, the washers and finishers inherit order. If the first hour is rushed, the whole building may spend the afternoon untangling what began as a small confusion. So you give the beginning its due, not with speeches, not with fuss, just with careful hands moving through cold cloth. A laundry marker in this time and place might be a woman, a man, a younger worker, learning, or an older worker trusted with accounts that often cause trouble. The job could be modest in pay and status, and it could be easy for outsiders to overlook. Yet inside the shop, people knew who could mark quickly without errors, who could read old codes, and who could solve a mixed bundle without upsetting the line. Learning the work took more than being shown where to put the ink. A new marker had to learn the laundry's code system, the routes, the common fabrics, the old accounts, the places where marks lasted, and the mistakes that happened when certain pieces were washed together. You might stand beside someone more experienced, watching their hands rather than listening to long explanations. The body learns by seeing and then by doing. At first, the new worker marks too slowly. The table fills. The washer waits. The clerk becomes restless. Then speed comes. But with speed comes the danger of errors. The experienced marker learns the middle path. Brisk but not careless. Calm but not sluggish. We can feel how that balance is earned through many ordinary mornings, each one teaching the hands a little more about cloth, ink, and consequence. The roughness for a learner would be especially quiet. Mistakes might be corrected sharply or not discussed until a customer complained. An old mark might be misread. A delicate item might be placed with ordinary wash. The lesson would arrive through embarrassment, extra work, or the heavy silence of knowing someone else had to fix what you missed. Yet the laundry keeps moving, and the worker must return to the table. By the time the learner becomes steady, the tools feel less like objects and more like extensions of the hand, and the queen's laundry around them becomes a map of sounds and habits. You know the washer room by its deep churn. You know the pressing area by steam and metal. You know the wrapping table by paper and string. You know the office by pencil, bell, and telephone. Without looking, you can often tell which cart has passed behind you because one wheel squeaks or because wet sheets make a different sound from dry towels. The building speaks in practical noises, and the marker learns its language. The smell of the laundry also has layers. Early morning brings cold cloth, damp canvas bags, street air, and the stale closeness of bundles tied overnight. Midday brings soap, steam, hot starch, wet floors, metal, and lunch carried from home. Afternoon brings heated cotton, drying lint, pressing cloth, wrapping paper, and the faint, tired smell of workers' clothes. You breathe all of it, and after years, the smell of the shop may feel almost like a weather forecast. In 1940s Queens, outside weather enters the laundry in small but definite ways. Rain makes incoming bundles heavier and coats the delivery bags with a grey dampness. Snow brings salt at the doorway and stiff fingers in the morning. Summer heat turns the shop closed and shining, with windows opened wherever they can be opened. Wind pushes grit through cracks, and cold days make the steam more visible, curling in pale layers near pipes and doorways. The marker's table sits within all these changes. On wet days, paper tickets may soften so you keep them away from damp cloth. On hot days, ink may behave differently, drying fast or smudging under a careless hand. On cold days, fingers take longer to loosen around pins and stamps. The work is repetitive, but the conditions are never exactly repeated. That is part of why the job asks for attention all over again. The tools themselves have histories. A stamp may have been used by several workers before you. A ruler or guide may carry nicked edges. A tin of pins may rattle with old bent ones at the bottom. The account book may hold names crossed out, routes changed, customers moved, businesses closed, and new ones entered in fresher ink. The laundry is a place of cycles, but also of quiet change. And as the seasons pass through the high windows, the 1940s Queen's laundry marker continues to meet the borough through its cloth, bundle by bundle, mark by mark. A winter bundle feels different from a summer one. In winter, there are heavier shirts, woolens needing care, flannel nightclothes, thick socks, and linens that smell faintly of closed rooms and coal heat. The cloth arrives cold, sometimes almost stiff from being carried through the morning. Your fingers wake it as you unfold it. The warm air of the laundry rises around it, and for a moment, steam from the building meets the chill held in the fabric. Winter also brings more darkness around the shift. You may arrive before daylight and leave when the lamps are already showing in windows. The laundry becomes its own bright pocket, full of heat and labor while the street outside stays blue and cold. This can be comforting, though tiring. The table, the ink, the tickets, the carts, and the familiar voices give shape to a day that might otherwise feel swallowed by weather. Summer changes the burden. The laundry's heat no longer comforts, it presses. The air grows thick with steam, and the windows may be open, but the breeze cannot always reach the marker's table. Your collar sticks, your hair dampens near the temples. Cotton fibers cling to perspiration on your arms. The smell of incoming laundry is stronger in heat, and the marker meets it before the wash can soften it. In summer, the roughness is patience under warmth. You move a little less sharply because every unnecessary motion spends energy. You still mark carefully, you still count, you still read the old codes. A glass of water sits somewhere nearby, warm almost as soon as it is poured. Outside, queens may be bright with sun, children, awnings, and open hydrants, but inside, the laundry has its own dense afternoon. Spring and autumn bring their own mixtures. Raincoats, curtains, blankets, lighter shirts, table linens after holidays, and household things shaken loose by cleaning all arrive at the marker's table. Curtains can be dusty at the hems and sun-faded along one side. Blankets hold smells deeply. Tablecloths arrive after family meals, with stains that show where people gathered. You mark each piece and note what needs noting. The job keeps you close to ordinary time. Holidays are not abstract on the marker's table. They arrive as extra napkins, good tablecloths, guest sheets, children's clothes, restaurant linens, and hurried commercial accounts. A celebration elsewhere becomes a heavier bundle here. We can feel the humility of that connection. Other people's feasts, visits, work days, illnesses, and moves all pass through the laundry in cloth form. And when a holiday rush begins, the 1940s Queen's laundry marker feels the pressure not as excitement, but as more pieces, more tickets, more chances for error, and less room to drift. A rush account has a sound before it has a shape. The clerk's voice changes slightly. The driver sets the bundle closer than usual. Someone says, "It needs to go through today, if it can." You don't panic. The laundry marker has no use for panic. You pull the ticket forward, count carefully, mark clearly, and make sure the special timing follows the bundle. Hurrying begins with order, or it becomes only motion. The cloth in a rush bundle does not care that it is rushed. It still needs smoothing. The mark still needs to dry. A delicate item still needs its warning. A count still needs checking. That is one of the deep lessons of process work. The material keeps its own pace, even when people want it faster. Cotton accepts ink only as cotton accepts ink. Paper tears if pulled too hard. Wet cloth grows heavy no matter the deadline. The marker learns to respect that material truth. You can become efficient, but you cannot make fabric stop being fabric. You can place the mark with a quicker hand, but you cannot skip the reading. This is where a quiet job becomes wise in its own way. It teaches that speed without sequence creates more work later. In the laundry, as in many rooms of labor, order is a form of mercy. The roughness of the rush is that it often lands on people already moving near capacity. A washer must fit the load, a presser must finish it. A wrapper must tie it, a driver must place it on the route. The marker's small beginning is only one part, but if it is wrong, the rush collapses into searching. So you make the beginning firm. You give the hurried bundle the calmest mark you can. There may be a quiet satisfaction when a rush bundle leaves correctly. It was pulled from confusion and carried through. It didn't become lost, scorched, miscounted, or delayed. The customer may never know the number of small adjustments involved. That is often how service work feels. The better it is done, the less visible it becomes. The finished bundle simply appears where it should, when it should, clean and tied. As the rush passes, the marker returns to the ordinary flow, and the ordinary flow, after pressure, can feel almost restful for a little while. You take the next bundle and find that it is plain household wash, with sheets, towels, pillowcases, and a few shirts. The cloth is familiar. The ticket is clear. The old marks are easy to find. Your breathing settles. The room's noise spreads out again instead of pressing close. A cart passes. A worker hums under their breath near the wrapping table. Someone laughs softly in the office. The day resumes its broader rhythm. There is a sleepiness inside such repetition, even while the worker must stay awake. That is why the job suits our telling tonight. It is all repeated touch, repeated checking, repeated return. You smooth the fabric. You read the code. You mark. You move the piece along. The cycle turns. And though the work could be rough in the body, the rhythm itself has a kind of low, steady music. We can stay with the feeling of a towel under the palm. Before washing, it is slightly stiff, perhaps sour at the center, where moisture lingered. The loops have flattened. The hem is thicker and easier to mark than the soft middle. You choose the corner, press it flat, and set the code where another worker can find it later. A towel is humble cloth, but in a laundry it has a precise identity. A pillowcase is lighter. It opens with a hollow shape, like a small empty room. The seam is a good place to search for old marks. Sometimes initials are embroidered by hand, and you pause just enough to avoid placing ink near the thread. The pillowcase may smell of sleep, hair oil, face powder, or nothing at all. You fold it into the proper pile, and its softness disappears among others. A sheet is broad and less convenient at the marking table. You gather one corner, find the hem, and keep the rest from dragging. Sheets can hide smaller items, so you shake gently or open the fold enough to check. A handkerchief may fall out, a sock may appear, a child's garment may have been tucked inside by mistake. The marker learns that large cloth often carries small surprises, and as these household pieces move onward, the marker's attention shifts again toward the marks themselves, those small signs that must endure more than anyone casually imagines. Indelible laundry ink had a practical severity. It was meant to stay. The smell could be sharp, sometimes bitter, and it clung to the fingers in a way ordinary writing ink did not. You learn how much to apply. Too little and it fades. Too much and it bleeds or shows through. The best mark is neither timid nor heavy. It sits in the cloth with quiet confidence. Stamped marks have their own feel. The rubber or metal face meets fabric with a small give, and the pressure must be even. A wrinkled seam can break the number. A thick hem can take the ink unevenly. The stamp pad must be moist enough, but not sloppy. You test it when needed, not because anyone has asked for artistry, but because legibility is the difference between order and trouble. Some laundries use tags or tapes, especially for certain accounts or repeat customers. A tag has a physical presence. It can be sewn, pinned, or otherwise fastened, depending on the system and garment. Tags can snag, curl, detach or irritate a wearer if placed badly. The marker has to think ahead. Where will this survive washing? Where will another worker see it? Where will the customer not be bothered by it? The mark is small, but it lives under harsh treatment. It goes through hot water, soap, rubbing, rinsing, wringing, tumbling, drying, pressing, folding, and weeks or months of use before returning again. The laundry marker of 1940s Queens understands this endurance through practice. If a mark placed last month comes back clear today, the hand remembers that the place was well chosen. If it comes back blurred, the method changes. There is a craft in such adjustment. Not a craft displayed in shop windows, but a craft of making ordinary systems work. The marker learns which fabrics feather ink outward, which hems hold best, which accounts need larger codes, which garments need a second hidden mark, because the first wears away. The body of knowledge is quiet, local, and exact. It may never be written down completely, yet it guides the day. By late day, after hundreds of these small signs have been made and read, the marker's eyes may feel as though they have been holding tiny numbers in place for hours. Eye strain has its own dullness, It settles behind the brow and along the temples. White cloth reflects light, dark cloth hides marks. Old tickets blur if the pencil was light or the paper damp. You blink, look away toward the window or the wall, then return to the table. The work cannot be done by touch alone, though touch helps. The mark must be seen, the count must be read, the name must match. A worker might keep glasses on a chain, or borrow better light from a nearby lamp, or turn toward the window when the day allows. In the 1940s, lighting in industrial rooms could be practical without being kind. Shadows sat under shelves, bulbs glared on metal. Steam softened everything. The marker learns to position the cloth carefully, to bring the small code into whatever light the room provides. The ears become tired too, not from one loud crash, but from the steady layer of laundry sound. Machines churn, pipes knock, carts roll, workers call, paper rustles, water runs, steam sighs. The marker's table may be quieter than the washroom, but the building's noise is always around you, pressing lightly against concentration. At day's end, silence outside can feel wide and almost unfamiliar. The nose becomes used to the place until only changes stand out. A bundle with strong perfume, a load from a kitchen, a hot starch pan, a scorch beginning at a press, a wet wool smell that fills the corner. These changes can guide the worker. Smell is part of the shop's knowledge, though nobody may name it formally. You notice because noticing helps, and because the body notices even when the mind is busy. The skin carries its own record, fingers dry from soap dust and paper, knuckles roughen, small scratches catch on cloth. Ink marks settle near nails. Steam dampens the face, then cool air chills it near the door. The laundry marker's body moves through these changes hour by hour, rarely in a way worth complaining about at once, but enough to make the job feel rough by accumulation. And still, when another bundle lands on the table, the hands open it, because the work continues through discomfort by becoming familiar. Familiar discomfort is one of the quiet facts of many old jobs. The body adapts, but adaptation is not the same as ease. You know how to stand so your back lasts longer. You know when to shift weight from one foot to the other. You know how to rest your wrist for a breath while still reading the ticket. You learn these small economies because no one can spin the body carelessly all day. The marker may keep a cloth nearby for wiping fingers, not only to keep garments clean, but to give the hands a tiny reset. You may flex the fingers under the table where no one sees. You may stretch the neck while turning toward a cart. You may step once to the side and back again, just enough to loosen the knees. These movements are not breaks. They are small ways of staying able. In a 1940s Queen's laundry, the pace likely depended on the shop, the accounts, the season, and the demands of customers who wanted modern service at a price they could bear. Laundry businesses competed on reliability. Reliability rested on workers. The marker, though modestly placed, was tied directly to that promise. Clean laundry delivered to the wrong person was not reliable. Beautiful pressing could not fix a lost shirt, so the marker's care was part of the business itself. It kept trust circulating. Customers might never know the worker's name, but they knew whether their laundry came back right. A household that trusted the mark and the route would send another bundle. A restaurant that received correct counts would keep the account. The little code inside the hem had a commercial life as well as a practical one. That is why the roughness carried pressure beyond the table. A mistake could cost time, money, reputation, and patience. Yet the work had to be done in a calm enough state to avoid mistakes. This is the odd balance of the job. It asked for speed and quiet. It asked for closeness and distance. It asked you to care about each piece, then let it go into the next part of the process. As evening begins to soften the edges of the room, the marker lets another finished lot pass onward, and the table receives the next one without ceremony. The next bundle may look like all the others at first. Brown paper loosened, string tucked beneath, ticket clipped where the clerk could find it. But as you open it, the pieces tell you they come from a boarding house, not a single family. The sheets are similar but not matched. The towels are thin in different ways. Several handkerchiefs carry initials that do not agree with one another. You slow down, because shared households can make the marker's job rough in quiet, particular ways. Boarding house laundry brings many lives together in one bag. A man who works nights, a woman between rooms, a traveling salesman, a student, a cook, and a lodger who never stays long may all leave cloth in the same place. By the time the bundle reaches the laundry table in 1940s Queens, the boundaries between them may be only a stitched initial or an old mark near a hem. You must separate what daily life has mixed. You begin with the ticket, then with the largest pieces. Sheets first, because they take space and hide smaller things. You lift one corner, find a mark, and call it softly to yourself. Then pillowcases, towels, shirts, underthings, handkerchiefs. The table fills with little territories. The smell is mixed too: soap from home, tobacco, closet dust, pomade, and the faint old wood scent that clings to linens kept in crowded rooms. There is no drama in it, only the steady strain of sorting people from one another by cloth. A wrong shirt returned to a boarding house may travel again before anyone notices. A towel without a clear owner may become nobody's and everybody's. The laundry marker's work protects small ownership in a world where private space can be narrow. You feel that as you place a mark where it can be found later, firm and discreet. The roughness here comes from ambiguity. Household laundry usually belongs to one account. Commercial laundry belongs to one business. Boarding house laundry may belong to a place, a manager, and several people with different habits. Your mark has to work inside that tangle. You check old codes, ask the clerk about account practice, and add notes that will keep the pieces grouped correctly through wash, drying, pressing, folding, and return. And as the boarding house bundle moves away in careful piles, the 1940s Queen's laundry marker turns toward the small garments that make the table feel softer, but not easier. Children's clothing changes the pace of the hand. The pieces are smaller, and the marks must be placed more carefully because there is less cloth to hide them. A child's shirt may have a tiny collar and buttons that feel almost weightless under your fingers. Socks are easy to lose. Underthings fold into themselves. A small dress may carry ribbons, embroidery, or a torn seam where play was rougher than the fabric. In the 1940s, families in Queens might send out laundry because home washing took time, space, heat, and strength. Apartment living could make large wash days difficult, especially in winter or when several children filled the rooms with constant need. The laundry marker receives that need without speeches. You see it in diapers, sleepwear, school shirts, play clothes, sheets, towels, and the endless small items that seem to multiply inside every family bundle. Diapers, when they come through a laundry, are a special kind of repetitive work. They must be counted carefully, marked clearly, and handled with the practical calm that laundry workers learn early. The smell before washing can be strong, but the marker does not linger over judgment. The piece is cloth, the ticket has a number, and the system must carry it through. You mark, stack, and keep the count steady. A child's garment may also carry a name sewn by someone at home. The stitching can be uneven but careful. A little line of thread made at a kitchen table or under a lamp after work. You notice the effort, even as you place the laundry's own mark somewhere less tender. There is something moving about a name inside a small collar. It says someone expected the garment to wander and wanted it returned. The marker's job is rough in part because it sits so close to other people's care. You handle things people depend on, things they may not have many of, things bought with attention and mended to last. The laundry is industrial, with carts and boilers and presses, but the table keeps bringing you back to individual lives. A small sock with a darned heel can make the room feel suddenly personal. When the children's things have been entered and sent onward, the day widens again, and the marker's table receives the heavier household pieces that carry the weight of rooms. Curtains are awkward. They come in long folds, dusty at the hems, and sun-faded along the edges that face the window. When you lift them, a dry smell rises, made of sunlight, street dust, cooking, and years of hanging still. They do not move like shirts. They spill. They catch. They drag toward the floor if the table is too small. You gather them carefully and look for a place where a mark will not show. In a Queen's apartment or house, curtains gathered the neighborhood quietly. They filtered coal smoke, traffic dust, bakery smells, damp air, and summer heat. By the time they reached the laundry marker, they had already been part of daily privacy, pulled aside in morning and closed at night. You mark them not as decoration, but as large, inconvenient cloth that must be returned to the right windows. Even so, the trace of a room remains in them. Blankets bring another kind of heaviness. Wool blankets may not go through ordinary wash, and they may need tags, notes, or separate handling. They smell of sleep, cedar, damp winter air, and stored warmth. Their edges can be thick under the hand. Old satin bindings may fray. A marker must find a secure place for the account code without harming the fabric or creating irritation. You move slowly because the blanket itself seems to ask for it. Tablecloths are broad like sheets, but they carry different evidence. A sheet belongs to sleep. A tablecloth belongs to gathering. Coffee, gravy, candle wax, fruit, ink, sauce, and holiday meals leave their quiet signatures. Some stains must be noted before wash, partly to guide treatment and partly to record what was already present. The marker smooths a corner and finds the hem, letting the great cloth rest across the table like a map. These larger pieces make the job rough by refusing to fit neatly into the marker's little station. They take space meant for quick sorting. They hide tickets. They pull at the arms. They require folding and refolding just to find a markable place. Your shoulders feel them after a while. Still, the process remains the same in spirit. Identify, count, note, mark, separate, and move onward, and as the heavy household pieces are carried away, the laundry marker's attention shifts towards stains, not to clean them yet, but to notice them before the wash begins. Stains are a kind of message, though not always a clear one. Grease darkens fabric differently from ink. Blood, rust, fruit, coffee, tea, and medicine each have their own look to practiced eyes. The marker may not be the stain remover, but noticing matters. A stain may need special treatment. A note may need to follow the garment. A pre-existing mark may protect the laundry from later blame. You learn to see without staring. A shirt cuff with ground in dirt tells one story. A table napkin with lipstick tells another. A barber towel may carry tonic, hair dye, or shaving soap. A mechanic's rag may be so heavily marked by work that ordinary laundering can only do so much. The marker does not make promises beyond the process. You simply note what needs noting and make sure the piece travels where someone with the right treatment can see it. In 1940s Queens, commercial laundries used soaps, alkaline builders, bleaches, bluing, starches, and various treatments, depending on fabric and account. The details could vary by shop, and the marker's role was usually before the main chemical work. Still, you had to know enough to keep a delicate item away from harsh handling, and enough to flag a stain that would need attention before heat made it more stubborn. Heat can set a stain, just as care can loosen one. That practical knowledge gives the marker's noticing a quiet force. If a stained tablecloth goes straight through without comment, the press may make the stain harder to remove. If a note follows it, there is a chance for treatment. We stand at the table and feel how even before the wash, the path of the cloth is being decided by small observations. Some stains are simply accepted as part of a garment's life. Work clothes may never become spotless. Towels may keep grayness at the center. Old sheets may hold yellowing that no ordinary wash can fully erase. The laundry refreshes, but it does not restore everything to beginning. The marker understands this because you see the same pieces return again and again, a little thinner, a little softer, still useful. The rough part is that every stain asks for attention while the clock keeps moving. You cannot become absorbed in each mark on the cloth. You must notice enough, record enough, and let it go. This restraint is a skill too. It keeps the line from stopping. It keeps the mind from drowning in detail. You give each piece its due, then send it toward water, soap, heat, and hands. As the stained pieces move toward treatment, the day brings another cart closer, and the laundry marker in 1940s Queens begins the careful work of matching old marks with new tickets. Old marks can be helpful, but they can also mislead. A garment may have belonged to one customer and then another. A family may move routes, A restaurant may change accounts. A shirt may carry marks from a previous laundry, a previous owner, or a previous system used in the same shop. You look at the code and then at the ticket, letting neither one rule too quickly. The truth usually sits in the agreement between them. Some old marks are crisp, black, and almost too strong. Others are blue-gray shadows, little more than memory in the fibers. A few have spread into shapes that look like numbers only if you already know what they meant. The marker's eye becomes patient with these ghosts. You turn the cloth. You hold it closer. You compare it with other pieces. You ask whether the old mark belongs to today or to another story. This is where the job can feel like reading palimpsests, though the worker would likely use plainer words. The cloth has been written on before. Wash after wash has faded the writing, but not erased it entirely. The new mark must join the old without causing confusion. You choose placement carefully, perhaps near the older code if it still helps, or away from it if the old one might lead someone wrong. In a busy Queen's laundry, misread old marks could send clean goods into the wrong bundle. That is why the marker must not treat every visible number as current. You check the account book, you look for a route, you notice whether several pieces in the same bundle carry the same old code. Patterns matter. One odd mark may be history. 5 matching marks may be the present trying to speak through faded ink. The roughness of this reading is quiet and mental. It asks for concentration inside sameness. It asks you to hold several possibilities without becoming stuck. It asks you to remember that cloth circulates through years, owners, laundries, apartments, and businesses. A shirt on the table is not only today's shirt, it may carry yesterday's systems in its seams, and the marker must decide which ones still count. When the old marks have been understood as well as they can be, the work returns to the forward motion of new marks, fresh tickets, and loads waiting for the wash. The washer-room never feels far away. Even if a wall separates you, the building tells you when loads begin and end. A washer door opens and the humid air shifts. A cart rolls out with wet weight. A worker calls for the next lot. The marker's table is upstream of all this, and upstream work has its own pressure. If you fall behind, water and machinery wait. If you move too fast, mistakes enter the current. You may arrange incoming pieces by wash type as well as account. Whites, colors, delicate goods, flat work, heavily soiled items, and special care pieces must not all go together simply because they arrived together. The marker's first sorting helps the laundry treat cloth according to what it is. A white towel and a colored blouse may share a customer's bag, but they cannot share every process. Your hands make those quiet separations. The texture of sorting is constant. Cotton against cotton. Buttons tapping the table. Zippers catching if the era and garment allow them. Hooks and eyes snagging lace. Towels resisting smooth folds. Sheets sliding wide. Rayon slipping away from the palm. The marker knows the feel of each category before fully thinking it because the day has trained touch into recognition. There is always lint. It collects in the corners of the table, along sleeves, under baskets, and around the legs of carts. Some lint is soft and pale, some carries color, some dampens into little clumps near the floor. It is harmless most of the time, but it is part of the atmosphere, like flour in a bakery or sawdust in a shop. You brush it away and continue, knowing it will gather again. A laundry marker's world is not spotless. That may seem surprising from outside, but cleanliness is the product, not the starting condition. The building receives soiled cloth, wet cloth, dusty cloth, and cloth in every stage between use and return. The roughness lies partly in standing at the threshold, where dirt has not yet been washed away and order has not yet fully been made. You work in the before so that others can see the after. And as the before keeps arriving, the marker's own sense of time becomes tied to baskets, not minutes, to tickets, not hours. A morning can vanish into 6 large carts. An afternoon can stretch around one troublesome account. The clock on the wall matters, but the body feels time through the work's progress. If the incoming table is clear, the day feels lighter. If baskets stack near the door, the hour feels heavy even before anyone says so. You learn to measure time by what remains, and what remains is usually cloth. There may be a whistle, a lunch break, a shift change, or simply the practical moment when workers pause because the next stage is not ready. But much of the marker's day flows without clean edges. One bundle becomes another, one ticket follows another, one mark dries as the next is made. We can feel how that continuity suits a sleep story, because the work keeps moving in a low circle, and the circle does not need to startle us. In Queens, the neighborhoods beyond the laundry had their own clocks. School bells, factory whistles, lunch counters, train schedules, shop openings and supper hours, all shaped when laundry was gathered and expected back. The marker's table received the result of those clocks. A rush shirt for a night worker, napkins needed before dinner trade, sheets for a hotel turning rooms, a family bundle wanted before the weekend. Each ticket carried time inside it. The roughness is that other people's time becomes your pressure. They may not see your table, but their expectations stand beside it. You mark for them anyway, not personally, not dramatically, but as part of the service. Your calm is practical. It protects the work. A hurried hand might satisfy the clock for a moment and undo the hour later. So you keep the rhythm measured, even when the room leans forward. Sometimes the day grants a brief pocket of ease. The incoming carts are low. The washer has enough ahead. The office is quiet. You can straighten the ticket tray, sharpen a pencil, clean the stamp face, or resort pins. These little maintenance tasks seem minor, but they preserve the station. A table in order is a mind assisted by wood and placement. You set things right because tomorrow's hands will need them. Then the door opens, the next bag arrives, and the pocket closes gently. Not with alarm, but with the familiar return of work. This new bag might belong to a hotel, and hotel laundry has a particular impersonality. Sheets and towels arrive in quantity, often marked by the establishment rather than by individual guests. The pieces have been used by people passing through, people whose names the marker will never know. The cloth smells of soap, sleep, travel, room dust, and sometimes perfume or shaving lotion. You count it as property, but it also carries the faint trace of movement. Hotel sheets can be large and heavy, especially when bundled tightly. You find the corner mark, or add one if the account system requires it, and keep the pieces with their lot. A hotel cares about count, turnaround, and uniform appearance. Guests may never think of the laundry worker. They see only a clean bed. But the marker's careful account keeps that bed from becoming one sheet short, one pillowcase wrong, one towel missing from inventory. Towels from hotels and boarding places may be marked more boldly than household towels. The mark needs to survive frequent washing and quick handling. It may be placed where workers can see it at once. The fabric may be thicker or worn thin from constant use. You handle them in stacks, feeling the weight build against your wrist. The count repeats, and the count matters every time. A hotel account may include bath mats, face cloths, table linens, kitchen cloths, and staff uniforms. Each category must remain distinct. The marker's table becomes a sorting field again, but now the field is ruled by institutional order rather than family habit. You separate not only by ownership, but by function. What touches a bed does not become what wipes a counter. What belongs to a dining room does not vanish into a bath stack. The roughness of institutional laundry is scale. One missing household towel is a nuisance. Missing commercial linen can become a pattern, a charge, a dispute, or a quiet loss absorbed by someone. The marker may not see the accounting later, but the counting begins here. So you handle the hotel lot steadily, trusting that a clear mark and a careful tally will spare trouble beyond the room. As the hotel lot moves along, the marker's table is brushed clear, and for a moment the wood appears again beneath the pale scatter of lint. That glimpse of wood can feel like rest. The table is not empty for long, but emptiness, even brief, lets the eye soften. You see the dents and old cuts. You see a dark ink stain that has become part of the surface. You see where years of hands have made the edge smooth. This table has held more cloth than anyone could count easily, and it bears the work without complaint, which is perhaps why workers trust such objects. You place the next ticket flat and set a small weight on one corner, so it won't curl. Paper in a laundry has a difficult life. Moisture weakens it, hands smudge it, pencil fades, ink runs if too wet. Still, Paper carries the instructions that cloth alone cannot. The marker respects paper because paper, like cloth, can be lost or damaged, and the day's order depends on both surviving long enough to speak. The account book may sit nearby, its cover softened and its pages slightly wavy from damp air. Names are entered with dates, numbers, marks, and notes. Some handwriting is neat. Some grows hurried near the end of long days. You turn a page carefully, because a torn page can cause more trouble than a torn rag. The book smells faintly of dust, paper, pencil, and the room's constant soap. In the 1940s, record keeping in a laundry was physical. It lived in books, tickets, tags, memory, and marks. There was no invisible database humming beyond the wall. If a question came, a person searched a page, remembered a bundle, read a mark, or checked a shelf. That made the marker's contribution both humble and central. You helped create the record that the rest of the building could trust. This physical record has a soothing quality when we imagine it slowly. Page turned, ticket read, cloth smoothed, mark placed, pile formed. It is a chain of touchable things. Nothing floats away into abstraction. The work sits on the table in front of you, and the next step is usually visible. Even the uncertainty has a place. A shelf, a note, a pin, a question asked across the room. And when the record is clear enough, the marker returns to the moving cloth, where sleeves, hems, and corners keep offering themselves to the hand. A sleeve is a small tunnel of fabric. You slide fingers along it to find a cuff, check for old marks, and make sure no small item is tucked inside. A cuff can carry starch, preferences, wear, stains, and the shape of someone's daily gestures. It may be frayed where it meets a desk, counter, or machine. You turn it gently, mark where needed, and fold it back into the line of work. A hem is a border, and borders are useful to laundry markers. They are thicker, less visible, and often strong enough to hold a mark. Sheet hems, towel hems, shirt tails, and apron edges become small writing spaces. The customer rarely thinks of them that way. To the marker, they are the practical margins of the garment's life. You write in those margins so the main cloth can remain clean to the eye. A pocket can hide trouble. Handkerchiefs, coins, paper, hairpins, buttons, notes, and crumbs may remain inside. The marker, or sorter, must check enough to prevent damage or loss. A paper left in a pocket can become pulp in the wash. A pin can prick a worker or snag a garment. A coin can strike metal. You don't turn every garment into an inspection ceremony, but your hands learn to notice weight and stiffness. When a pocket yields a note, there may be a moment of decision. If it is laundry instruction, it belongs with the ticket. If it is personal, perhaps it goes to the office or remains aside. The marker is not there to read private life, but private life sometimes falls onto the table. You handle it with plain discretion. The room has seen enough ordinary human evidence to make gentleness practical. The roughness of such discretion is rarely named. It means being close to people's belongings without taking liberties. It means seeing stains, mends, names, and forgotten objects without turning them into talk. In a working room, gossip may exist, as it does anywhere, but the best kind of marker learns a respectful distance. You are intimate with the cloth, not with ownership of the stories behind it. By the time another hour passes, the marker's table has become again a small center of decisions, each one modest, each one linked to all the work downstream. Downstream, the washers rely on separated loads. The starcher relies on instructions. The presser relies on account and finish. The folder relies on correct grouping. The wrapper relies on counts. The driver relies on labels. The customer relies on the bundle being right. The marker is not above these workers, and not outside them. You are simply early in the chain, where a great deal can still be made clear. A chain like this has a calm dignity when it works. No one person performs the whole transformation. Each worker does a portion, then releases the cloth to the next hands. The roughness is that each portion can be blamed when the final bundle disappoints. But each portion can also quietly support everyone else. A clear mark is a kindness to the presser. A good note is a kindness to the stain worker. A correct count is a kindness to the wrapper. In a 1940s Queen's laundry, the workers may have come from many backgrounds, speaking different home languages, carrying different histories into the same damp building. The work gave them shared words: ticket, mark, starch, press, route, count, rush, hold. Those words were practical bridges. They did not need to be poetic. They only needed to move information accurately from one station to another. You hear those words through the day, not shouted unless noise requires it, but repeated in useful tones. Hold this, check that, light starch, missing 2, route 3, new account. The marker answers with the same economy. The language of the room is plain because the cloth needs clarity more than ornament. Still, under the plainness, there is warmth in being understood quickly by people who know the same work. This shared understanding does not remove the roughness, but it changes its texture. A hard day is easier when someone catches your eye and knows why the table is crowded. A difficult account is easier when a driver remembers an old marking problem. A late correction is easier when the wrapper leaves space instead of tying the bundle too soon. The system is human, and its humanity shows in small accommodations. As the next set of bundles waits, the marker reaches for the ticket tray again, and the day rolls onward through paper, cotton, steam, and the soft persistence of repeated care. The ticket tray has its own small order, and you come to trust it the way a cook trusts the placement of knives and pans. Incoming slips sit in one section. Marked and ready slips sit in another. Holds, questions, and special care notes have their own uneasy corner. When your fingers reach for a ticket, they expect the right place before the eyes confirm it. If the tray is disturbed, the whole table feels briefly less steady. A 1940s Queen's laundry marker works in this kind of practical arrangement all day. The room may seem crowded to someone new, but to you the positions mean something. Ink close to the right hand, clean scrap cloth near the edge, pins in a tin that gives a dry rattle, the account book far enough from damp bundles, but near enough to search. These distances are small, yet they save motion, and saved motion matters after hours of standing. The next bundle in the tray is from a barber shop, and it carries a different scent before the paper is fully open. Bay rum, talcum powder, shaving soap, hair tonic, damp towels, and the faint metallic smell of razors cleaned nearby all seem to rise from the cloth. Barber towels are humble pieces, often small and numerous, and they come through the laundry with the day's faces still suggested in their wear. You count them carefully. Barber towels may be stained in ways that need attention, with tonic, dye, soap, or small rust-colored marks that must be noted without alarm. The marker sees the bundle as an account first, but also as a corner of street life. Men waiting in chairs, a radio low on a shelf, clippers buzzing, a towel snapped and folded. All of that has become cloth now, and the cloth waits for your code near the corner. You mark towel after towel in the same place, building a stack that leans slightly until your hand squares it. The fabric is coarser than a family's face towel. Some pieces have been washed so often that their edges ripple. The old mark may still be strong, because commercial towels return often and become familiar. You renew what needs renewing, then tie the group loosely for the next stage. The roughness in these small commercial accounts lies in volume and repetition without variety. One towel is easy. 50 small towels become a field of identical corners, each needing the same attention as the last. The mind tries to float away. You bring it back with the count, 10, 20, 30, though the spoken numbers stay in your head, because a soft room can still punish a missed item. And as the barber towels move onward, the laundry marker in Queens receives a bundle from a kitchen, heavier in smell and more stubborn in its cloth. Kitchen laundry announces itself plainly. Aprons, side towels, cook's coats, napkins, and table linens may carry grease, onion, coffee, soup, flour, and the warm sourness of long service. The cloth can feel stiff where food is dried. Corners may be tied carelessly after a late shift. You open the bundle without judgment, because every restaurant produces this evidence. Clean dining rooms depend on back rooms where cloth is used hard. A cook's coat is thicker than a shirt and often marked by heat and labor. The buttons may be cloth-covered or practical, the cuffs worn, the front stained in places where an apron did not catch everything. You find the hidden mark, compare it, and make a note if the coat needs special attention. The weight of it is not only fabric, it holds the strain of stoves, sinks, knives, counters, and long hours on a kitchen floor. The Queen's laundry marker handles restaurant linens with a firm rhythm. Napkins are counted in stacks. Aprons are checked for ties that knot around other pieces. Towels are separated if they are too heavily soiled for the regular lot. Tablecloths are opened enough to inspect stains and marks, then gathered again. The smell is stronger at first, but after a while the work becomes pattern. Your hands move through it as through any other account. There is a kind of respect in not flinching. The restaurant sends its rough cloth because the laundry knows what to do with rough cloth. You are the first part of that knowing. You don't scrub yet. You don't press yet. You name, sort, count, and direct. That is enough for your station. The rest of the process waits, and the cloth will meet water, soap, heat, and effort in its proper turn. Food stains can make marking harder. Grease may resist ink or make the fabric slick. A stained corner may be the usual marking place, forcing you to choose another spot. A napkin with old marks on one edge and new sauce on another requires a small adjustment. The marker's craft lives in these small deviations. The system has rules, but cloth keeps asking for exceptions that are not dramatic enough to be called exceptions. When the kitchen bundle is finally sorted, the table seems to breathe differently, and the next household bag brings a cooler smell of bedroom linen and rain. Rainy day laundry has a softened weight. The canvas bag may be damp outside, and the paper ticket may curl at its edges. The cloth inside smells of wet sidewalks, hallway air, wool coats nearby, and closed windows. Sheets feel cool against the hands. Towels may be heavier than usual. You keep the ticket lifted away from moisture, because the writing must survive long enough to travel with the load. In 1940s Queens, rain could turn delivery into a careful balancing act. Drivers guarded finished bundles from wet streets, while incoming bags absorbed weather from stoops, alleys, service entrances, and apartment halls. The marker sees the rain's effect before the washers do. A damp ticket, a smeared note, a bundle tied tighter than usual, a coat smell clinging to linen. The outside world does not stay outside. You smooth a pillowcase and hear the faint sound of wet fibers separating. The old mark is harder to see because the cloth is darker with damp. You hold it near the light, find the code, and renew it. Your fingers feel the cold at first, then the warm room begins to take it away. This exchange of temperatures happens again and again, each bundle bringing a little weather to the table. Rain can make the laundry feel enclosed and comforting if the work is steady and the roof holds. Water taps at windows, street noise softens. Steam inside becomes less strange because the whole city seems damp. But the marker's job remains demanding. Dampness blurs, softens, weighs down, and smears. It makes ordinary tasks just a little slower. The body notices the difference by the end of the day. A garment with a note pinned to it must be handled with extra care when damp. Pencil may smear, ink may feather, paper may tear around the pin. You remove or reposition it only as the laundry's practice allows, keeping the instruction with the piece. A note asking for careful treatment is fragile, and fragility in a wet room is never casual. You treat it like a small, dry thing that needs shelter. As the rain-darkened bundles move through sorting, the marker hears the washer-room take up another load, and the steady mechanical rhythm folds itself back around the table. The washing machines are not the center of your station, but they set the room's pulse. Their turning is deep, patient, and repetitive. Water enters, cloth turns, soap works, water leaves. The marker's table is full of small emotions, but the machines remind everyone that the laundry is an industrial place as well as a human one. You feel that pulse through the floorboards or concrete, a low insistence beneath the feet. A 1940s laundry could be proud of its equipment, but machinery did not remove hand labor. It changed where the hand labor lived. Someone loaded, someone sorted, someone marked. Someone checked temperatures, watched cycles, handled wet weight, guided pieces to finishing, pressed, folded, wrapped, and delivered. The marker's work survived modernization because the machine could not know ownership. It could wash a shirt, but it could not remember whose shirt it was. This is why the job remained rough, even as the laundry became more mechanized. The machines increased capacity, which could increase the stream of cloth reaching the marker. More bundles, more accounts, more speed expected, more chances for small errors to multiply. The marker might stand before a table, not a roaring drum, but the pressure of the machinery's appetite still arrived in the form of waiting baskets. You can hear a worker call for the next white lot. That call reaches the marker's table like a gentle but firm tug. Are the whites ready? Are the tickets clear? Are the delegates removed? Are the account groups separated? You look over the piles, check the tags, and let the next cart go. Once it enters the wash, the chance to correct certain mistakes narrows. Before the wash is where your care matters most. The scent of soap powder grows stronger when a new supply is opened. It can be chalky, clean, and harsh in the nose. It settles in the air with lint. The marker may not mix the wash, but everyone in the building shares the particles of the process. You breathe a little through the mouth when the dust is fresh, then return to the cloth. The room has many such small adjustments, and as the machines take the marked load away, the marker's hands return to a quieter problem, a garment with no clear mark and no obvious home. It is a plain white shirt, which is the hardest kind to lose and the easiest kind to confuse. White shirts fill laundry carts like snow. This one has a worn collar, two buttons that don't match, and a faint stain near the pocket. The ticket that should explain it is not with it. You turn the tail, check both seams, lift the collar, look inside the cuffs, and find only old marks too faded to trust. The laundry marker does not treat the shirt as a mystery in any grand sense. It is simply a problem to be held calmly. You set it aside with a temporary note. You check nearby bundles for missing counts. You compare the old marks with the account book. You ask whether anyone saw a loose shirt fall from a bag. The process is slow, but it is a known slowness, and known slowness is easier to bear. Sometimes the answer appears from subtraction. One customer's bundle is short a shirt. Another has the right count already. The faded code resembles the short customer's old mark. The size and wear seem likely. Still, likely is not always enough. You look for another clue, perhaps a repair, a collar brand, a laundry tape, or a note from past visits. The shirt waits under your hand, patient because cloth has no choice. If the answer cannot be found, the shirt goes to the hold shelf. That shelf is not a failure exactly. It is a pause. It says the laundry will not guess beyond what it knows. The marker places the shirt there, not with irritation but with the small heaviness of unfinished work. Then the next bundle arrives, and the day requires you to leave the unresolved thing in its proper unresolved place. The roughness of unresolved items is mental. They remain in the corner of awareness. While marking another account, you may remember the shirt and wonder whether it belonged with a route that has already gone. While counting towels, you may hear the office phone and expect the question. The mind carries small open loops all day, and a good marker learns to keep them from tangling the work still in front of the hands. By mid-afternoon, several such loops may have gathered, and the 1940s Queen's laundry marker moves through them with a practical patience that feels almost like slow bookkeeping done in cloth. Bookkeeping in cloth is not neat. It wrinkles, smells, hides, and shifts when lifted. It can be damp, stained, torn, or folded around something small. Yet the marker's station turns it into records. A pile here means one account. A tag there means special treatment. A note pinned at the top means caution. A mark inside a hem means return. The whole table is a ledger with fabric pages. You learn to trust layout. Problem pieces on the left, ready whites ahead. Colored goods to the side. Commercial lots in baskets, delicate pieces in their own tray. If someone moves a pile without telling you, the table's meaning changes. That can be unsettling, because the arrangement is not casual. It is how the mind keeps hundreds of pieces from becoming one heap. The marker protects the layout with quiet firmness. Workers may tease gently about how particular a marker can be. Don't touch that pile. Leave that ticket where it is. Put the towels back the way you found them. The words may sound fussy to an outsider, but inside the laundry they make sense. Order at the marker's table saves labor everywhere else. A shifted pile can become a search. A lost ticket can become a delay. A casual hand can undo careful seeing. There is a kind of warmth in being known for care. It may not come as praise, it may come as someone trusting you with a difficult account, or asking your eye on a faded mark, or leaving a special care bundle at your station because they know you will not mix it. In work like this, respect is often practical. It arrives disguised as reliance. The body feels reliance too. When others bring questions, you stop and answer. When a route needs checking, you step over. When a bundle must be corrected, you help. The marker's own table waits, gathering more cloth while you solve the trouble. This makes the job rough in a way that is easy to miss. Your work expands around interruptions, yet the original pile still expects completion. As afternoon moves closer to evening, the laundry's heat begins to feel older, as though it has been handled by everyone in the room and returned to the air. The first warmth of morning may feel useful. By late day, it has weight. It lies on the back of the neck and settles under the arms. The air smells of finished cloth, wet floors, warmed paper, soap, and bodies working. The marker's table is less cold now. Even incoming fabric seems to lose its chill quickly. You might not notice how warm you are until a door opens and the outside air brushes your face. That brush of air can feel like a kindness. It carries street smells, rain or dust, food from nearby kitchens, exhaust, and the faint movement of the borough beyond the laundry walls. Then the door closes and the shop's own climate returns. The 1940s Queen's Laundry marker lives in that contrast, inside and outside, steam and street, cloth and pavement, hidden marks and public errands. Late daylight changes how cloth looks. Whites can turn creamy, shadows lengthen inside folds. Pencil on tickets becomes less clear unless the lamp is good. The marker may adjust position, draw a shade, or turn on another bulb. The eyes are tired, but the work near closing is not less exact. In fact, finished bundles leaving the shop can make late errors more troublesome, because time for correction is shorter. You lift a stack of marked shirts and feel the slight dryness of ink that has set properly. The shirts are ready for wash or finishing depending on the stage. The stack is not heavy at first, but every lift adds to the day. Your wrist turns, your elbow extends, your shoulder receives the weight. Repetition makes light things heavy by asking them to be lifted too many times. This is the quiet arithmetic of labor. A co-worker may slide a chair near your station, though sitting may only be possible for a few minutes or for certain tasks. If you sit, the angle changes. The table may be too high or too low. Standing returns because the work needs reach. Still, even a brief easing of the feet can feel like a blessing. You continue marking, but the knees rest and the body notices. And as the body tires, the marker leans more heavily on routine, letting the sequence carry what attention alone might not. Routine is not mindlessness. It is a scaffold. Ticket, count, old mark, new mark, pile. Ticket, count, old mark, new mark, pile. The order keeps you from skipping a step when the room is noisy or the body is weary. We can hear the soft rhythm in it, not as a chant, but as a practice. Each part touches the next. Each completed garment clears a small space. When a routine is well made, it catches errors almost before you do. A missing ticket feels wrong in the hand. A pile without a note feels exposed. A garment moving too soon makes the body hesitate. These hesitations are useful. They are the worker's experience speaking below words. The marker learns to honor them. If something feels out of sequence, you pause and check, even if the reason is not yet clear. The roughness is that routine can be both helper and danger. It helps the tired worker continue. It can also lull the eyes past a difference, a colored item among whites, a delicate fabric in a common lot, a wrong account number repeated because the first one was misread. So the marker uses routine, but does not surrender entirely to it. You remain just awake enough inside the pattern. This is one reason the job belongs so well to quiet telling. It sits between wakefulness and repetition, between the comfort of familiar motions and the need to keep seeing. For sleep, we can follow the rhythm without carrying the pressure. We can let the hands move in imagination, smoothing cloth, finding hems, reading marks, while the roughness stays softened by distance and by the low voice of the room. The worker, however, had no such distance during the shift. The worker had wages to earn, expectations to meet, and a table that would fill again if attention wandered too long. In 1940s Queens, with rents, food costs, wartime or post-war changes, and family needs pressing outside the laundry, a steady job could be valuable even when the work was hard. The marker's calm was not dreamy, it was practiced. As the day lowers, the finished bundles begin to claim more space than the incoming ones, and the laundry marker turns toward final checks again. Final checking brings the morning back in reverse. The ticket you first read beside cold cloth now returns beside folded warmth. The count that began as soiled pieces now becomes clean inventory. You compare the list to what lies before you. Shirts, towels, pillowcases, sheets, aprons, napkins, the same words but transformed by work. A clean bundle feels orderly, yet the marker knows order had to be built several times. You look for the mark when doubt arises. A folded shirt may hide its code, so you lift an edge gently and find the place your hand chose earlier. It is there, readable. That small confirmation is satisfying. You let the shirt settle back into the stack. The wrapper waits, string ready. The bundle can be closed. Somewhere, perhaps tomorrow morning, someone will open it and think only that the laundry came back. A missing handkerchief can delay a whole household bundle. Handkerchiefs are small, and small things vanish into folds. You search sheets, pillowcases, shirt sleeves, and the corners of baskets. You run a hand along a stack and feel for a thin extra layer. Often the missing piece is not missing at all. It is clinging inside something larger, flattened by steam and pressure. You find it, count it, and the bundle exhales. The roughness of small items is out of proportion to their size. A handkerchief can cost more time than a blanket. A collar stay can halt a shirt. A single napkin can send a worker back through shelves. The marker learns humility before smallness. Nothing is too minor to matter if the ticket expects it. A laundry is built from details, and the smallest detail can stand at the door like a quiet gatekeeper. Commercial bundles are checked with equal care, though the feeling differs. A restaurant wants its napkin count. A barber wants towels. A hotel wants sheets. A factory or shop wants uniforms. Each account has a pattern, and the marker helps confirm that the pattern has been kept. The finished stacks are less intimate than family laundry, but they belong to someone's working day. Clean cloth supports other work beyond the laundry, and when a final count fails, the marker steps back into the building's memory, tracing the missing piece through wet rooms, press tables, shelves, and carts. You begin near where the bundle was finished. Maybe the missing towel is in an adjacent stack. Maybe the shirt went to the wrong presser. Maybe a pillowcase clung to a sheet. You don't assume the worst. You follow likely paths. The cloth traveled through known stations, and each station may hold a clue. The marker moves from table to shelf, from cart to rail, asking short questions in a low voice. The search has sounds of its own. Paper lifted, stacks shifted, hangers brushed aside, cartwheels turned a few inches. A worker saying no, then wait. Perhaps. The missing piece may appear under something heavier, folded into the wrong account, but still clean and safe. When it does, the search ends without celebration. You return it, correct the count, and the whole room moves on. If it does not appear, the note must be made. The bundle may be held or sent with explanation, depending on the account and shop practice. The marker does not like such notes, but they are better than silence. Silence lets a customer discover the absence without context. A clear note says what was known and when. It keeps the record honest, even when the outcome is not ideal. The roughness of responsibility is strongest here, near the end. Everyone is tired, but the customer will meet the finished bundle, not the tiredness behind it. The laundry's work will be judged by what is present, clean, correct, and folded. The marker helps carry that judgment, though the marker may never stand at the customer's door. Your mark travels where you do not. By now, the station's tools have begun to feel like evening objects. The stamp is set down more slowly. The pencil rests in the groove where it always rests. The ink bottle's cap waits nearby. The ticket stack is thinner. The table still has work, but the shape of the day has changed. You can feel the end approaching not as a finish, but as a gradual clearing. As the clearing begins, the Queen's laundry marker gathers the unresolved items once more, because what can be settled today should not be left for morning if the answer is within reach. The whole shelf is checked piece by piece. The plain white shirt, the towel with two old marks, the blouse with the uncertain note, a pair of socks that may belong to a family bundle already wrapped. Each item is handled again, and each one receives the same calm attempt at return. Fatigue may make the hand slower, but sometimes the answer is easier later, after the day's other pieces have found their places. A missing count from one account now points towards the white shirt. A route driver remembers picking up an extra bundle near the same address. The old mark, seen under evening light, resembles the account more clearly than it did at noon. You bring the shirt to the ticket, compare, and decide with more confidence. The shirt can leave the hold shelf. It enters a bundle, and the shelf becomes a little lighter. The towel with two old marks remains uncertain. One mark belongs to a commercial account that closed months ago. Another may belong to a newer household. The cloth itself is worn, thin at the center, with a hem repaired in blue thread. Someone may know that repair, you ask, and a clerk remembers a customer who often sent patched towels. The towel finds a likely home, but perhaps a note follows it, because good judgment sometimes includes a little caution. The blouse requires more delicacy. Its note has blurred, but the fabric tells enough to keep it from harsh treatment. You add a clearer tag. You secure it where it will be seen. It may not finish today, but it will not be mishandled tomorrow. This, too, is progress. Not every problem needs completion at once. Some need to be protected until the right step can happen. The marker's rough day softens when unresolved things become fewer. The mind releases them one by one. A shelf with 3 items feels different from a shelf with 8. A clear tag feels different from a vague memory. The table becomes not empty, but manageable. In repetitive work, manageability is a quiet form of peace. It says the next motion is known, and the one after that is not too far away. As evening settles more fully, the laundry's outgoing bundles begin their last movement, and the marker's hidden codes prepare to leave the building again. The delivery area has a practical chill after the hot inner rooms. Doors open and close. Bundles are arranged by route. Drivers' checklists with pencils tucked behind ears or held between fingers darkened by the day's handling. The paper-wrapped laundry stacks in rows, each with a label visible. Some bundles are small and soft, others are squared, heavy, and tied tight. All of them carry marks within, tucked away under folds. The 1940s Queen's laundry marker may watch a route being loaded and recognize accounts by shape alone. That large, flat bundle for a hotel. Those compact stacks for a barber. That household bag with the patched towel finally restored. The bundles outside looks plain. But you know the inner story of sorting, marking, washing, checking, and correction. The knowledge stays with you even as the bundle leaves. A driver lifting bundles into a truck works with different muscles from the marker, but the two jobs meet at the label. If the label is wrong, the driver is sent wrong. If the internal marks are wrong, the customer may receive someone else's piece. The route depends on visible names and hidden codes together. You can feel the whole chain resting briefly in the doorway before it moves into the street. Outside, Queens may be turning towards supper. Apartment windows brighten. Shops prepare to close or catch the evening trade. Trains and buses carry workers home. The laundry truck enters that ordinary movement with clean bundles stacked inside. No one on the street may think about the marker. That is all right. The mark was never meant to be seen by everyone. It was meant to do its work quietly. The roughness of being unseen can sit in a person, though it may not be spoken. A laundry marker's care disappears into other people's convenience. Yet there is also shelter in that hiddenness. The work is not performed for applause. It is done because cloth must be returned, because systems must hold, because people need clean things and someone must keep them from getting lost. That plainness has its own dignity. When the route pulls away, the doorway closes, and the laundry's sounds gather inward again, softer now, with fewer carts moving and more tools being put back where they belong. Cleanup deepens as the last loads leave. The marker returns to the station and sees what the day has left behind. Limped along the table edge, a curled ticket that stuck to damp wood, a small smear of ink where the stamp was set down too quickly, a piece of string twisted around the leg of the table, a pin shining near the floor. You gather these things slowly because tomorrow's order begins tonight. The floor under a laundry marker's table tells the story of work more honestly than any polished front counter. Threads, lint, paper corners, dust from dry cloth, and the dull shine where feet have stood for hours all gather there. A broom moves through them with a soft scrape. The dustpan fills with pale fluff and grit. The air smells less like incoming laundry now, and more like warm wood, soap, and ending. You wipe the table in long strokes. The rag moves over the old stains and new moisture. Ink does not fully leave the wood, but fresh smudges can be softened. You straighten the trays and set the account book aside where damp cannot reach it overnight. The stamp pad is covered. The pencil is sharpened or placed ready. These actions do not belong to the customer, but they protect the customer all the same. A 1940s Queen's laundry marker may leave a note for the morning worker, or for yourself if the shift returns to you. Hold blouse for delicate wash. Check patched towel account. New restaurant code begins tomorrow. Rush shirts expected on first route. The note is simple, but it carries sleep across the night. It lets the next morning start with memory instead of confusion. Paper, again, becomes a small kindness. The room's heat slowly thins. Machines rest. Steam fades from the windows, or gathers differently as the air cools. Workers' voices lower as they prepare to leave. Someone buttons a coat. Someone counts cash in the office. Someone lifts a lunch pail. The marker's hands, freed from cloth, may feel oddly empty for a moment, as if they are still shaped around a hem that is no longer there. And as you step away from the table, the work remains arranged behind you, ready to begin again in the same place when morning returns. The walk out of the laundry can feel like moving from one climate to another. The shop's damp warmth loosens its hold slowly. The air outside may be colder, drier, or filled with rain. Street sounds seem wider than the indoor sounds, less close to the ear. You may still smell soap on your cuffs. You may carry ink beneath the nails. The body leaves the workplace, but the workplace leaves with the body in small traces. In Queens, the streets around a laundry were never only industrial. They were lived streets, with grocery windows, stoops, children, delivery entrances, factories, garages, elevated tracks, small houses and apartment blocks. A worker leaving after a shift might pass customers without knowing them. Someone carrying a clean bundle home might pass the marker who helped return it. The connection would remain unspoken, folded inside paper and cloth. At home, the marker might have laundry of their own. That thought has a quiet irony, but not a sharp one. Work clothes need washing. Shirts need mending. The person who spent the day marking other people's cloth may still face ordinary household tasks. The difference is that home cloth carries familiar names without tickets, familiar wear without account books. Even so, the trained eye may notice every hem. The roughness of such work includes how it blurs into life. The smell of soap may be pleasant until it becomes too constant. A clean folded sheet may remind you of the table. A lost sock at home may feel less like a joke and more like one more small failure of order. Yet home also returns the worker to cloth without commerce, to fabric as bedding, clothing, warmth, and use, rather than inventory. Sleep after repetitive work can come with images of the task. Marks, tickets, stacks, and folds may drift through the mind. You may dream of counting towels, or searching for a missing shirt, or smoothing a sheet that keeps unfolding. This is the mind releasing what the hands repeated. It is not dramatic. It is the soft echo of labor, the day replaying itself until rest finally rinses it thinner. Then morning comes, and the Queen's laundry opens again, and the marker steps back into the warm, damp room where tickets wait, and the first bundle sits on the table. The first bundle of a new day does not know that yesterday was tiring. It asks the same attention. Paper loosened, string untied, cloth opened, count begun. The marker returns to sequence, and sequence receives the worker like a familiar chair. There is comfort in knowing the first step. There is also honesty in knowing that the step must be taken again and again, no matter how well it was taken yesterday. A customer may have complained overnight. A missing piece may have been reported. A bundle may be waiting with a note from the office. Such things change the morning's mood. You read the complaint or question calmly, because emotion does not find the shirt. The mark may find it, the route record may find it, the shelf may find it, the account book may find it. The marker begins where the evidence is. If the missing piece is found, the solution is practical. It is wrapped, labeled, sent, or held for pickup. If it is not found, the record must remain clear. The roughness here is that mistakes, even old ones, return to the marker's table like damp cloth. They must be handled while new work arrives. The table never belongs only to the present. It carries yesterday's unresolved corners and tomorrow's preparation. Still, many mornings begin without trouble, just with the ordinary stream. The room warms. Workers take their places. A truck arrives from a route. The office bell sounds. Someone opens a window a little. The marker sets down the first clear coat of the day, and the ink settles into the fabric. It is a small beginning, but small beginnings are how large processes keep from becoming chaos. In the 1940s, with wartime years and post-war changes touching industries across New York, laundries had to manage supplies, labor, fuel, equipment, and customer demand. The marker may not have controlled any of that, but the effects could reach the table. Shortages might mean worn linen stayed in service longer. Repairs might become more common. Customers might watch counts closely because replacing cloth was not casual. You would see all of it in the fabric. Worn cloth changes marking. Thin areas cannot hold ink well. Repaired hems interrupt the usual place. Old towels fray at corners just where a code might normally sit. Sheets nearing the end of usefulness become soft but fragile. The marker adapts. You place the mark where cloth remains strong enough. You avoid tears. You note damage when needed. The work becomes a quiet negotiation with age. There is something tender about worn cloth being kept in use. A patched towel may not look impressive, but it speaks of thrift and continuity. A sheet with a mended tear may still serve many nights. A shirt with turned cuffs may remain respectable under a jacket. The marker sees these efforts and works with them. The mark does not make the cloth new. It helps the old cloth continue through one more cycle, and as the morning builds around these worn pieces, the laundry marker's care becomes even more exact. Because fragile cloth gives fewer chances for correction. A torn hem can make a mark useless if it tears away in the wash. A loose button can become a problem for the presser. A seam beginning to open may worsen under mechanical action. The marker notes what the eye catches. You may set the garment aside for mending if the shop offers it, or attach a warning if it needs gentler handling. The cloth asks for attention not by speaking but by failing slightly under the hand. Mending, where it exists in the laundry, is another quiet corner of labor. Needles, thread, replacement buttons, small patches, and patient fingers restore enough usefulness for a garment to return. The marker may not mend, but you may direct pieces towards that station. A small tear noticed early can be repaired before washing pulls it wider. Again, the first table helps decide the fate of the cloth. The smell near mending is different when you pass it. Less steam, more dry thread, fabric scraps, wood drawers, and perhaps the faint powdery smell of old buttons kept in tins. It is a calmer sound too, with scissors snipping and thread pulling through cloth. The laundry is full of such sub-rooms and side tasks, each with its own quiet atmosphere. We notice them as the marker notices briefly and usefully. A worker mending a customer's shirt and a marker placing a code in its hem are both doing acts that disappear when successful. The shirt returns wearable. The owner may not think of the hands involved. This disappearance is part of service. It can feel thankless, but it also means the object has re-entered life without demanding attention. That is a gentle achievement, if we let ourselves see it. The roughness is that disappearance can hide skill from pay, status, and memory. Laundry markers were not the celebrated figures of industry. They were workers in back rooms, often surrounded by women and men whose labor supported households, businesses, and city routines. Yet without such work, daily order frays. Cleanliness, presentation, and return all depend on unnoticed hands. As the fragile pieces are marked and sent toward mending or careful wash, the table receives sturdier work again, and the marker settles into the broad rhythm of shirts. Shirts are perhaps the classic garment of the laundry, and they bring a steady complexity. Collar, cuffs, front, tail, buttons, pocket, fabric, starch preference, and old marks all require attention. A shirt can be plain and still contain several decisions. You find the tail or inside neck, depending on the shop's marking practice, and place the code where it will serve the workers without troubling the wearer. Then the shirt joins its lot. Dress shirts from office workers may carry ink at the pocket, shine at the elbows, and collar wear from daily use. Work shirts may carry dust, oil, or rougher repairs. Uniform shirts may need to stay with a business account or a route. The marker's hands learn not to treat all shirts as one category. The differences matter, because the finishing differs, the starch differs, and the customer expectations differ. A collar can be stiff with old starch or soft and tired from many washings. It may need shaping later, and the ticket may note finish. The marker checks old codes near the collar carefully, because collars are handled often and marks there can wear. A tail mark may be safer, but less visible during sorting. Every placement carries a trade-off. The experienced marker chooses quickly, because the day's pace requires quick wisdom. Buttons make small sounds on the table, tiny taps against wood. Missing buttons must be noted. Broken ones may snag another garment. A fancy button on a delicate shirt changes handling. You run fingers over them almost automatically. The touch is light, practical, and searching. A button is small, but if it goes missing after washing, the customer may notice before they notice how clean the shirt is. The roughness of shirts is their familiarity, because everyone thinks they know a shirt. The labor inside, preparing, marking, washing, starching, pressing, folding, and returning it can seem simple from outside. But a good finished shirt carries many decisions made correctly. The marker's decision is early and hidden, yet it begins the shirt's safe passage through heat, water, and hands. By midday, the shirt piles thin and thicken again, and the Queen's laundry marker moves from garment to garment as though following a road made of cotton. This cotton road has no scenery in the usual sense, but it has landmarks, a familiar account number, a monogrammed cuff, a bundle tied with blue string, a towel repaired in red thread, a hotel sheet with a corner mark that always folds under. You recognize these things the way a driver recognizes turns on a route. The laundry's world becomes navigable because the worker has passed through it so many times. Repetition makes memory physical. Your hand reaches for the old mark before the eye has fully named the garment. Your fingers know the difference between a household pillowcase and a commercial one. Your body knows which basket is too full and likely to spill. This knowledge is not mystical. It comes from touching thousands of pieces, correcting thousands of small confusions, and letting the work teach the body what matters. A new worker might be overwhelmed by sameness. The experienced marker sees enough variation to keep going. Not entertainment exactly, but recognition. That towel has returned. That account changed its code. That shirt was mended. That restaurant is short napkins again. The room becomes a quiet record of habits. You don't need to speak them all aloud. It is enough that the work guides itself through what you know. The roughness is that memory can become burden when accounts are many. You may carry more in your mind than the job description would suggest. Which customer complains about starch? Which route mixes bags? Which commercial account uses old tags? Which bundle came in wet? Which delicate blouse waits for morning? Such memory helps the shop, but it also ties the mind to work beyond the immediate piece of cloth. Still, the marker's memory is not only strain. It can offer reassurance. When a familiar mark appears, the day feels more legible. When a troublesome account is completed without error, the mind rests briefly. When an old garment returns and its code is still clear, you see the continuity of your own past work. The mark you made before has come back to meet you, and it has held. As the afternoon comes on, the laundry's pace grows uneven. with quiet pockets followed by sudden clusters of work. Uneven pace can be harder than steady pace. A lull softens the body, then a rush asks it to sharpen again. You may be wiping the table when a driver arrives with late pickups. You may have just cleared commercial accounts when the office brings a special household bundle. The marker adjusts without ceremony. Tools come back into the hand. Ticket, count, mark, pile. The sequence wakes again. Late pickups often carry urgency because they have entered the day after the day's main plan was already made. The shop may decide what can be finished and what must wait. The marker's part is to make the incoming pieces clear enough for that decision. You mark the rush items distinctly, attach notes, and separate them from ordinary flow. A late bundle can disrupt the room, but only if it is allowed to become vague. A vague bundle is a dangerous thing in laundry work. Not dangerous in a dramatic way, but dangerous to order. It sits without clear count, clear instructions, or clear path. The marker's job is to remove vagueness. Name it, count it, mark it, note it, place it. Once these things are done, the bundle can move. Until then, it is only cloth with trouble folded inside. The roughness of removing vagueness all day is that clarity takes effort others may not see. A customer sees a bundle, a marker sees 10 decisions, a co-worker sees a pile. A marker sees a count, fabric, wash type, old marks, special notes, count, route, and timing. The mental work is hidden because the hands keep moving, but it is there, steady as the steam in the pipes. We can rest our attention on one late handkerchief, because even it has a path. It arrives tucked inside a shirt sleeve, nearly missed. It carries a faint initial, a corner mark, and the smell of cologne almost washed away by time in the bundle. You add it to the count, mark if needed, and place it with the customer's small items. Without that moment, it might have gone wandering. And as small things are caught and returned to their lots, the laundry marker's station becomes once again a place where loss is quietly prevented before it happens. Preventing loss rarely feels like an event. It feels like looking twice. It feels like checking a cuff. It feels like keeping a ticket dry. It feels like noticing one towel too many in a stack. The reward is the absence of trouble. No call, no search, no complaint. No worker staying late over a missing piece. The marker works toward these absences, and absences are hard for outsiders to value. In 1940s Queens, where customers might rely on a laundry week after week, trust was built from such uneventful returns. The right sheets, the right shirts, the right towel count, the special blouse unharmed, the restaurant napkins ready, the barber towels back in time. Each correct bundle reinforced the idea that the laundry could be depended on. The marker's hidden codes helped hold that trust together. There is a gentleness in thinking of trust as something folded. It does not need to be announced. It is wrapped in paper, tied with string, placed on a shelf, carried through a doorway, opened at home. If everything is right, the customer may simply put the cloth away. That ordinary acceptance is the work's quiet success. The marker might never hear of it, but the system continues because it happens often enough. The roughness is that trust can be shaken by one visible error, even after many invisible successes. A missing shirt is remembered more sharply than 100 correct returns. A stained tablecloth returned without note may trouble a customer more than weeks of clean service comforted them. The marker knows this, and perhaps that knowledge sharpens the eyes even when the body asks for ease. Yet the work cannot be done in fear. Fear makes hands clumsy. The best marker works with calm respect for error, not panic about it. You know mistakes can happen, so you build habits that reduce them. You know cloth can confuse, so you mark clearly. You know fatigue can blur, so you check counts twice when the hour is late. Calm becomes a tool as useful as ink. As the day moves toward its final stretch, the marker's calm is tested by the ordinary crowding of late tasks, each one small, each one asking not to be rushed past. A customer may arrive at the counter before closing, asking whether a bundle can be found. The clerk calls back, you hear the name, and perhaps you know the account. You check the ready shelf, the hold shelf, the route list, and the ticket stack. The bundle may be waiting, or it may still be finishing. You answer with what the record shows. The customer hears only a result, but the answer is built from marks and paper. Counter pressure has a different feel from machine pressure. Machines wait without impatience, even when their schedule matters. Customers bring voices, needs, and sometimes worry. The marker may not speak directly to them, but the tension travels through the clerk's question. Is it ready? Was there a missing item? Did they ask for no starch? You look, read, remember, and help the front of the shop stay truthful. In a neighborhood laundry, reputation could be personal. A customer might know the owner, the clerk, or the driver. Complaints could travel by conversation as easily as by telephone. The marker's care in the back room supported those front room relationships. The roughness is that public trust rests partly on private concentration, and private concentration can be worn thin by heat, noise, and the sheer number of pieces. Still, there are pleasant counter moments that reach the back indirectly. A customer pleased that a tablecloth came clean enough. A note of thanks for finding a lost towel. A regular who sends cookies near a holiday perhaps, or simply speaks kindly to the clerk. The marker may only hear fragments, but fragments can warm a day. Not every acknowledgement is direct. Some arrive like distant light through steamed glass. You return to the table with that faint warmth, and the next piece of cloth is waiting. This is how the job balances itself. A hard account, then an easy one. A complaint, then a clear mark. A missing item, then a found one. A rush, then a lull. The worker learns not to make too much of any single turn, because the day's wheel keeps moving. And while that wheel turns, the hidden history of laundering itself seems to gather quietly around the marker's simple act of naming cloth. Before large commercial laundries, much washing was done at home, by hand, with tubs, washboards, boilers, lines, and long physical effort. People knew the weight of wet sheets and the labor of wringing. Commercial laundries did not make that labor vanish. They moved much of it into specialized rooms, where workers handled it in volume. The marker's station is part of that shift, a place where household need entered industrial order. In the 1940s, this order was still close enough to handwork that every piece remained touchable. There were machines, yes, but the system did not float above the workers. A shirt passed through fingers many times. A towel was lifted, counted, marked, washed, extracted, dried, folded, stacked, wrapped, and delivered. The marker sees the beginning and often helps with the end, linking the human scale to the industrial one. That is why this obscure job matters in our quiet room tonight. It stands at the meeting point of private life and public process. The customer sends intimacy in a bag. The laundry receives it as work. The marker gives it a code, making it legible to machines and workers without stripping it entirely of its belonging. The cloth becomes part of a system, then leaves the system and becomes private again. The roughness of the role comes from living at that threshold. You touch what is personal, but you must process it efficiently. You protect ownership, but you do not own the stories. You use an industrial code, but you apply it to worn human things. The job is humble because the mark is small. It is demanding because the mark must carry the garment through a world designed to make everything look clean and alike. We can imagine the marker pausing over a pillowcase embroidered with initials. The thread is soft from many washings. The initials may be from a marriage, a family name, a hope carried into a household years before. You do not dwell too long. The ticket waits. The pile waits. But your hand chooses a mark far from the embroidery, leaving the careful thread untouched. That small respect belongs to the craft. As the evening's work continues, respect for cloth becomes respect for time, because each item has already traveled through someone's day and now must travel through yours. Time lives in wear. A new towel is square and full. An old towel curves at the corners. A new shirt has firm cuffs. An old shirt softens around repairs. A tablecloth used for holidays may be carefully stored, then arrive with one dramatic stain after a year of quiet. A restaurant napkin may return so often that it seems barely to have a life outside the wash cycle. The marker sees all these tempos at once. A 1940s Queen's laundry marker also sees how city life speeds cloth along. Work uniforms need fast return. Apartment dwellers may lack space to dry large items. Businesses need linen for tomorrow's service. Families need sheets before guests arrive. The laundry is a time machine of a practical kind, taking used cloth and preparing it for the next demand. The marker's code is the first mark on that journey through borrowed time. The roughness is that the worker's own time is consumed by giving other people theirs back. A clean shirt returns a morning to a worker. A stack of napkins returns a dinner service to a restaurant. A sheet returns a bed to a room. The marker helps make these returns possible, while standing through hours that may feel long, warm, and repetitive. Service work often spends itself so others can continue. Yet there is peace in useful repetition when we listen from a distance. The mark, the fold, the count, the pile. The soft sound of cotton sliding, the warmth of the room. The clock above the office door, the low voices. The smell of starch and rain. The hand resting for one breath on the edge of the table before opening the next bundle. These details form a rhythm that asks nothing sudden from us. The worker cannot drift as we can, but the room still has its slow beauty. It is in the steam clouding the window. It is in the paper bundles stacked straight. It is in the way a tired hand still places a mark neatly, because neatness prevents trouble. It is in the old table holding steady beneath another day's cloth. Rough work can still contain beauty, especially when the beauty is made of care. And as the last ordinary household bundle of the evening is opened, the marker finds inside it not one kind of cloth, but a small, familiar map of a life. There are sheets, 2 pillowcases, 3 shirts, several towels, a child's garment, and a table napkin that perhaps slipped in by mistake. The ticket lists most of it, but not all. You count, then count again. The missing or extra piece must be noted. The cloth smells of home, not clean home, but lived home, with soap, skin, cupboard air, and the faint trace of cooking. It is not unpleasant. It is simply human. The shirts carry old marks that match the account. The sheets are harder because one corner is torn and the usual code has faded. You renew it in a stronger place. The child's garment has a name sewn in, so you avoid it and mark the seam. The extra napkin is noted. Perhaps it belongs with the family after all, or perhaps it has wandered from another bundle. You hold it aside until the count explains itself. This is how a marker moves through uncertainty without making it larger than it is. Every question gets a place. Every place gets a note if needed. The work does not demand instant certainty when none exists. It demands that uncertainty be contained, labeled, and revisited. That practical patience may be one of the job's deepest skills, though no one would put it that way on a payroll sheet. The roughness is that patience too can tire. A worker may feel the desire to decide quickly, to clear the table, to make the pile disappear. But the laundry teaches consequences. A fast wrong answer comes back later. A slow right answer saves time in the end. You learn this not from theory, but from days when a mistake cost half an hour of searching after everyone wanted to leave. So the napkin waits, the family bundle continues, and the marker's hands keep their measured pace. The sheets go into their pile, the shirts follow, the towels are counted and marked. The child's garment receives its quiet code. The table napkin, still uncertain, rests beside the ticket tray like a small folded question. It will be answered, perhaps by another bundle, perhaps by the account book. And as that small question waits in the fading warmth, another cart rolls nearer, carrying clean pieces back from the wash, and the marker turns once more toward the returning side of the cycle.